Schlegers in the back.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new extra time episode. We're getting up there in numbers. I think we're pushing close to 18 or 19 now. World Cup break's almost over, so that's exciting for some of us, especially U.S. men's national team fans. But tonight, as always, I have Luke with us, and then our regular, kind of semi-regular friend David G's on here. How we doing, guys?
No, he's a friend. He said semi-regular friend. I think
Like
he's a friend.
regular on the show. Regular on
David
the show.
G, I think you're a great friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's good
Regular
to see you
on
guys.
the show.
Oh man.
So Luke's obviously on cloud nine because England's in the semifinals and gets a chance to take care of FIFA FC, that is Argentina, which we'll get into World Cup stuff later in the show. But not too terribly much has actually officially happened. Since we last spoke, as far as our club goes, obviously Griezmann joined. There's been transfer rumors abound, but nothing official has came across. We'll touch on some of the newest transfer rumors here in a little bit. But first, we're gonna kick it off by just our reaction to the friendly that was open to season ticket members and supporter group members last Wednesday. Quick reaction to that and everything. David, I'll let you kick it off. Luke was not able to make it. He had car issues and was not able to make it.
Sorry.
Yeah. I think the best way to put it, and I think some people are going to be upset about this, but it was a very disappointing start to the game. I think, as Orlando City has tended to do most of this season, they started off slow. And so it was one of those things where you were really hoping with Griezmann into the team that they could, find a better way to get started a little bit faster. Up until like the first goal was scored, it just took them too long to try to get going. And again, they seemed a little bit too passive on the ball. They seemed a little bit too, we got to get the extra pass in, which didn't make a ton of sense. And I'm over there sitting, in the middle of the field just going, this is the same freaking team we saw in the entire first half. And I was told that this guy was going to manage the team differently and get them to, react differently and all this other stuff. And it just didn't happen. So it was pretty frustrating for me. And then Griezmann does what a world-class player does. He changes the game, right? And so he gets a nice ball from Atuesta, and I want to give credit to Cartagena, who played the original ball to Atuesta because he broke, a line with that. But then Griezmann gets the ball on the right, makes two or three dudes miss, and then slots the ball home in the corner. And that's exactly what you expect a world-class player to be able to do for you. And that's when Orlando City kind of flipped the switch and was like, okay, we need to get on it and start really taking the game to the Rowdies. And they did after that. Dorsey forces the own goal, and all that kind of stuff. So it ends up like turning around for them. But and again, I don't know how John feels, but I was pretty disappointed on how the game started because I thought it was mediocre to say the best.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, it's kind of what you've just come to expect from this team this year. We saw it against Naples. Now, yes, we had a pretty rotated squad against Naples, but, saw a struggle against the Naples side that, is, I believe they're League One, right? They're even a division below the Rowdies.
Yeah.
And just to correct you there, if my memory serves me correct, something you said, it was Atuesta that actually forced the own goal. He's the one that drove in on that. And
I know the ball came from Dorsey, but
yeah. The ball came from Dorsey to Atuesta. Atuesta should have shot it about 2 or 3 touches earlier, decided to get a little bit closer to goal, and then the keeper did a good job shutting the angle off, and he tried to cross it and it deflected in off of one of the Rowdies defenders. But yeah, I mean, it sadly looked like, a team that still doesn't have that killer mentality that we've been looking for, honestly, for the better part of almost 3 seasons now. We saw it saw it back in 24 when we made the conference semifinals with, we had a lot of luck. We barely beat Atlanta. Took us 3 games against a Charlotte side that wasn't very good. And then we meet a Red Bull side that was flying high at the time. And lost 1-0. And then we all know how, last year ended and everything. And it was just a lot of the same. I'm more and more, I didn't think I could be any more on board with Luke's, burn it all down thing. But the fact that we're sitting here on July 13th, basically a month since the break started, I believe a little more than a month since the break started. And, the very disappointing news that Perelman was staying. I feel like there's managers out there that are available now that we could do a lot better that are a lot better than what Perelman offers. And the scrimmage, this should have been a scrimmage that was, 4-5-0 at half, or at least a dominant 2 or 3-0 at half. And it was anything but. It looked like the senior team guys came out there, knew that they were, knew it was a friendly, knew it didn't really matter, and just kind of went through the motions until, Griezmann had something to do with 2 of the 3 goals we had, and we, it's just disappointing is all it is.
Yeah, I think the other thing too that I've already talked about Griezmann. He's world class. He changed the game. Him and Tincho did what we thought they were gonna do. They both took turns, kind of dropping into space, picking up the ball when they wanted to pick up the ball. I still think they both were too deep at times. I don't want to see them playing that deep. To me, doing anything beyond the halfway line is just a no-go zone for both of them. They both should be as far up forward as they can. That's where this midfield needs to step in. And in this one, what was unique about it is they played Atuesta, Otavio, and Cartagena together. That was the 3 kind of midfielders in the middle. And Cartagena very often would slip into the back line and make sort of a back 3 in attack. And so while that was good and fine, and Cartagena's done that a lot, it very much, most of the time, ended up sticking Otavio with a lot of the solo duties of trying to defend, because what Atuesta was doing was he was trying to play like a box-to-box role, but forgot half the time that he was supposed to defend. And I'm sorry, and John kind of talked about this earlier, his final product wasn't good. So he wasn't good on either side, right? And it goes back to the same thing again, that I don't understand this guy's fit. He has not been what we've expected him to be at all. And this Rowdies match, which, again, the scoreline in the first half, I think, was flattering to us. In the second half, I think we deserved the goals we got in the second half. But Atuesta just doesn't fit, I think, what this team is trying to do. It just doesn't make a ton of sense. And I'm sorry, but to put 3 central midfielders on the field who have all had up and down seasons so far. Again, I know Brian Ojeda was not available for this one because he was still making his way back, with Paraguay being in the cup. There's more work to be done here, and I just don't know that the answer is on this roster right now. I'm not convinced it's on this roster.
Yeah. And just for those watching, here's what we kind of looked like with the ball in possession. Obviously, like David said, Cartagena, Otavio, and Atuesta in the midfield. Marin Janssen and Brekalo kind of, well, actually, no, in possession, especially when we'd have the ball in our attacking third, Cartagena would drop back, and Marin was miles up the pitch. Same with Dorsey. I mean, Luke would have been losing his mind like I was the little bit we sat on the side. What side is that? The east side?
East side,
Absolutely roast. I was miserable. I don't know, David, how you sat there the entire match. The sun came out for like 5 minutes and we were done. We went over to the supporter section where there was shade. But Dorsey was miles up the pitch. Even when we had it in our defensive half, miles up the pitch. I mean, it was almost like he was told not to drop behind the center midfielders, even though that's where the space was early, especially. And then Marin was miles up the pitch with Cartagena dropping back as the third defender. And then something that was interesting to me that I thought I noticed was, and the site that I used for the lineup for the tactic didn't let me do it, but it seemed like for a lot of the first half, Atuesta and Otavio were kind of switching who was playing centrally and who was kind of coming out wide, until it got to the attacking half, especially the final third. I don't know if you noticed that or not, David, but that was an interesting wrinkle.
Yeah, I just don't think it suits these guys' skill sets. I think it just ended up being a thing where it was like Atuesta was like, "Hey, I've been given the freedom to go forward. Let me just do it." And then again, like I said, he just wouldn't get back, and then Dorsey wasn't getting back either. So then you're forcing Cartagena to come out of the back line and Otavio to kind of patrol the entire, central part of the pitch, and he just couldn't do it by himself.
Yeah.
And so the Rowdies were getting these sustained levels of possession that you were just like, you didn't want to see this. And then giving Adrian Marin the ability to go farther forward makes no sense to me. Like, the only thing he has on him is that he's got a long ball that works sometimes. Not all the time, but it works sometimes. But, like, he has no business being way up the field like he was. Like, if you want to play with that style, you need to bring on a wing back who can do that better for you, or a left back who can get forward. But Adrian Marin isn't that guy, right? Like, it just didn't make a ton of sense. And then the other thing that I want to comment on a little bit is, Otero gets the start in this one because obviously Crepeau's not back yet. So Javier Otero gets the start. I thought he was fine. I can't really say too much about him. I thought he was okay. Tristan Himes got the second half, so Tristan got a chance to play the second. I thought Tristan was better. Like, just honestly, from what I saw, and again, John and I have talked about this on many shows, his communication is elite. He's great at that. It's what he's always been good at. But his distribution was good against the Rowdies, I felt, as well. I just thought he was slightly better than Otero, but again, good. Like, I thought he was quality. And then what I liked the most about this scrimmage was the second half was the Justin Ellis show, especially when Griezmann goes off the pitch in the 60th minute. Justin Ellis then looked at it and was like, I'm the baddest MFer on the field. I'm going to take over this game. And that's what he did the last 30 minutes.
Oh, dude, it was, for those that didn't get to watch it, and Luke, you would have been dancing in place with it. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, I'm sure you saw the highlights, the little back heel he had to Zachariah, the assist he had to Caraballo. What was the other one? What was the third one I'm missing? Because I think he had 3 assists, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He gave the one to Caraballo, the one to Taifi, and then the one to Sirajan. Yeah, who made a beautiful run between the two center backs. Yeah,
just a beautiful through ball. And I mean, it wasn't just those 3 instances. I mean, he was just making them look silly. He was getting triple teamed and getting out of the triple team with the ball, and it was just. I mean, the dude. If Ojeda leaves, we've got a solid backup for him. If something happens to Ojeda or Griezmann, it's going to be a fall off. Obviously, you're going from Griezmann that's right there at borderline still being a world class player, and then Ojeda and his productivity. But the fall off isn't quite as bad as we thought it would be to begin the season, because Ellis. I mean, we all knew, following OCB, that Ellis had quality in him.
Right.
And the dude's just, I said at the beginning of the season, he looked like he slimmed down a little bit. Lost some of his quote unquote, this isn't saying anything negative about him. It's just the age he is, being 18, 19 years old, lost some of his baby fat. And he has just been incredible for the senior team. What was it, his first 4 matches, he had at least a goal contribution or something like that.
John, I will say this though, to push back a little bit, when he was on the field with Griezmann, it did seem like 2 trucks kind of in the way of each other. You know,
Yeah.
there was very much like they want to occupy the same space. And I
Mhm.
get it, right? Like Griezmann's going to take the space he takes. He's the world-class player here.
Yeah.
But I think what Justin Ellis needs to do going forward is there's going to be moments where he's on the field with Antoine Griezmann. I don't
Mhm.
doubt that. So what I think he needs to figure out on the training pitch is what spaces can he occupy where they're not getting in the way of each other, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to allow Griezmann to get in the space that he wants to. So then his second thought should be, okay, that was my first, space as well. However, my second space is this, and get to that space
Mhm.
instead. And I think that's the next piece they need to work on. It's early days yet. I'm not worried about it, right? They're brand new to each other. But
Yeah.
I think that's something that I noticed. That's why I said in the 60th minute on, he really turned it up
Yeah.
because Ellis could take any spot he wanted to at that point. And then I got to give a shout out to like everybody from OCB who came on in this scrimmage. Again, I know the Rowdies are technically a division down, but OCB is arguably should be on their level, basically. I could make that argument. They smoked them, man. And I know Rowdies had rotated as well, but like it was not a contest. OCB with their chemistry and the guys they brought on the pitch, like Harvey had a very good stint when he came on. I thought Dylan Judelson deserves a lot of credit. I felt bad for him getting yanked with the last couple minutes left. I thought he was good. Iago got the armband for the last 60 minutes, which I thought was incredibly interesting. Wouldn't have maybe necessarily, thought that at the time, but good for him. I thought he did well leading the line. I thought his game was okay. I thought he could have done better, but I think he was good.
I mean, he didn't have much to
considering
do,
they
though.
brought him. Yeah, and like considering the partner he had, because he had Colin Gusky lining up next to him for most
Yeah.
of it. But he had the leadership part that you were hoping. He was screaming at dudes. He was telling dudes where to get to at certain points and stuff. So I like to see that as well. But I honestly, as bad as it sounds, I thought the second half was better than the first half. I thought the second half was more complete and more put together.
Well, I mean, to me, I was thinking about it at the match, and when you saw them making all the the subs at half, and then at the 60th minute when they did like 8 subs, I thought, I'm like, this is going to be interesting to see how these guys come out. Are they going to come out and play it like the senior team did? Or are they going to come out like a bunch of Hungry Academy kids like they play the OCB matches?
Yeah.
And they came out like a bunch of Hungry Academy kids like we know they are. And it was just interesting to see the just difference in mentality with them and how and the seriousness that they took it with, and it was a good thing to see, And I thought it was interesting that they were playing Gusky as a center back too, because Gusky is not a center back. You look at him, he is not a center back, but he did well. He did well. You can't complain. They obviously didn't give up a goal, and I mean Tampa did have. I'll say more moments, not necessarily more possession, but more moments in the second half where you saw a little bit of the fall off defensively, and a little bit of a fall off in the athleticism. But to back up a little bit, we were talking about Ellis and Griezmann. I feel like Wednesday also showed that you and I were correct that him and Ojeda were a natural partnership. Because you saw it.
It was smooth. Yeah,
it was
smooth.
They never got in anybody's way. Ojeda, and I even brought it up when I got home. I was showing my girlfriend the highlights. I'm like, she's like, because she asked me, she doesn't know much of anything about the sport, but she goes, "Don't they play the same basic position?" I said, "Yes, but think about it. Where does most of Ojeda's goals come from, especially if they're outside of the 18? Or around the 18, the left side of the penalty mark." And Griezmann loves to, kind of likes to do what Paslic does and, cut in and be coming in from the right. So they both counteract each other in a very good way. And then you have both of their distribution that's excellent. That, when you get into those tight spaces, like we will on the 25th against Nashville, it's going to be interesting to see then how really they work together.
And I'll say this, between switching from left to right, I thought that was seamless as well. Sometimes you saw Tincho on the near side, because again, we were on the east side, so you'd see Tincho on the near side and Griezmann would go to the other side, and then they would switch, and it was very natural on how they were able to put that together. And then, got to give Griezmann credit. He got Angulo a goal, which we haven't seen in a long time. So you got to
Don't
be like,
pass out,
hey,
Luke.
yeah, this guy's magic is already starting to rub off. But
And I have never seen a professional soccer player take as long to get a shot off as Angulo did.
Oh my gosh, that was crazy.
He almost blew it.
Let me say this too, and obviously Luke won't have as much reference, but I'm curious to see what his thoughts are on this. I know John will have a little bit more. I'm almost thinking at this point, and again, it'll be interesting to see what this club does, and we'll get to this later on in the episode for sure, but I almost feel like with the way that Griezmann and Tincho want to play, I almost feel like they should be back half a line and have a striker in front of them. I think that's the best way to get the most out of them and basically let them be two roaming tens that just go and find the game, right? Wherever they want to go find the game, whether that's both of them on the right, both of them on the left, one on the left, one on the right, one centrally while the other one's out left, whatever that idea is. It almost feels like that's how this team could potentially get the best out of everyone that's on the pitch and then take off one of those three midfielders. Because again, I don't think you need all three midfielders on the pitch there. Put somebody up there who, again, for lack of a better term, just bangs in goals, man. Like I don't need it to be elegant. I just need the ball in the back of the net. Something that this team has struggled with a bit outside of two players, basically, the entire season. I think that might be the way to maybe unlock them the best. Because again, I didn't hate what we saw against the Rowdies, but you could tell that sometimes some players were hesitant to get beyond Griezmann. Like Dorsey struggled with that a little bit. He's a little hesitant to get beyond Griezmann. On the left-hand side, Angulo didn't have any worries getting past Ojeda, but then we know what Angulo's end ball is, right? Sometimes it's a really great ball, and other times it's 5 rows in the stands. Like you just don't know, right? And so I almost feel like that might be the approach going forward.
Yeah,
Look, you haven't got much time yet.
it's all right. Because I wasn't there, so
Sure.
But I completely agree with you, and that's kind of the approach that kind of needs to go. Is I feel like we are so philosophically with the idea in our coaching ideology with wingers that I feel like sometimes we don't need wingers. Like if we play Ojeda as, like David said, if we play Ojeda and Griezmann as a 10 and then get a forward, they could just play off each other like wingers, and maybe they would fit if they play naturally. Maybe they can move out on the wing because they are good enough. Griezmann has played on the wing sometimes in his career, so he definitely is good enough to go out on the wing. Trust me, I trust a world-class player to get a ball in the box any time of the day. And I definitely trust Ojeda with his left foot to get a ball in the box any time of the day. But playing those 2 10s, definitely, it can make a very more multi-dimensional formation, multi-dimensional style of play, rather than just sticking them at wing and just say, that's it.
Because you also don't know who's going to come at you, right? And that's the kind of disguise behind all of it is you don't know if this time it's going to be Tincho that's going to make the run or if it's going to be Griezmann who's going to make the run. And to help prove your point, Luke, I would say Griezmann spent a majority of his time in that right half space and the right channel. He spent a lot of his time in the right half space and the right channel, which is where he wants to be. So
for my FIFA players out there, he'd be considered a right forward. Somewhere on the right wing, but still in the box or edge of the box area where he can still get multiple shots off, multiple shots on target.
He's always going to have the width. Yeah, and he's always going to have the width with Dorsey overlapping him, right? Because Dorsey's always going to overlap. He's never going to underlap. He's not a technical fullback like that where he's going to want to get on the inside, right? So he always knows he's going to have that safety valve of, like, let's say his half space play isn't going to get him something open. He knows he's going to have Dorsey out there who's going to make that run. And same thing with Tincho. He knows he's going to have Ivan Angulo on the left-hand side to make that run for him. But again, they don't always have to play in that space because we've seen Ivan Angulo come inside sometimes and try to wreck the game inside when you want to double up on the numbers and stuff. So, but Dorsey doesn't really have that as much in his bag to pull it off.
No, but Angulo definitely does. Angulo definitely has some threat in the pace, which expands Angulo's game a lot. Which him going forward's definitely a threat. So
And I could see
Yeah.
him racking up hockey assists. Like I know MLS counts the hockey assist, right? The the
Yeah.
guy that makes the pass before the pass. So you could see Angulo shoot up the charts with that because again, I don't know that he's going to be the main assist guy, but he might be the pass that leads to the pass, right?
Yeah.
With the way
Yeah,
he's
because
gonna,
he
with
gets
the way he's
into
gonna
some
play.
good areas and he doesn't have necessarily the final product, which
Right.
we've established that.
Right.
Angulo does not have the final product.
Right.
But he could get as you said, the pass that gets to the final product, or the pass that gets to the pass to
And
the final
sometimes that's all
product.
you need, right?
And
You don't need
sometimes
more
that's
than
what you
that.
need.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you're not always the guy that provides the main assist.
Right.
Sometimes you're the guy that just gets the ball to the guy. And that's all right. You know,
Yep.
there's so many players like that. But that's what makes a winning team. Everybody has a role.
Yep. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at who our transfer targets have been. Um, I'm gonna take from our chat between us, David.
Mhm.
But you look at who our transfer targets have been, and it 100% leads to Griezmann and Ojeda taking up that space you're talking about. That kind of being that a dual number 10, if you will, and it makes sense. If we're looking for, we've had what 3, 4, maybe 5 different strikers be rumored that aren't going to be bench players necessarily, that are going to be on TAM or DP level deals.
Right.
So I mean, it's one of those that it would make sense for us. It would look nice. I think it would. I think the game. I think they would flow a little bit better. And the I'm going to use the lineup that you sent me earlier this week to show kind of what we're talking about for
Yeah.
those watching. Kind of going with like a 3-4-2-1 type of deal. With I call it a 3-4-2-1 with a box in the middle with essentially four central midfielders, 2 attacking, 2 defensive. And especially with like if we got a player like Marquinhos and then Iago or Brecalo would be sitting on the bench. We've been rumored with Marquinhos. There's been a couple other, 1 or 2 other center back rumors out there, as well as another player that's a left back / left wing back as well, which we'll get to all that in a little bit. But this is basically what it would look like if we did. Caleri right now is one of the rumors floating around out there that we're interesting in. And it's just at that point with playing like that, I mean, you look at what Griezmann does and you look at what Ojeda does. Yeah, they score goals, but their distribution is right there
Elite.
at the top of the league.
Yeah.
Um, and it's and then you see what like OCB did on what was that Saturday,
Sunday.
Sunday.
Yep.
How when the game was tied and they needed a goal, they kind of switched into something like this. With the 3 back, they let Tahir Reed Brown get a little further upfield.
Mhm.
Caraballo came into the middle. That run Caraballo had, I know we don't really cover
Oh,
OCB on this show,
so good.
but the run Caraballo had, I mean, that was probably what a 50, 60-yard run if I were to remember correctly.
Yeah.
Maybe even more. I mean, he got it on the defensive half, got around their attacking midfielder. The attacking midfielder tried to foul him 3 or 4 times and ended up getting taken out by one of his own teammates that Caraballo juked, and then passed it to B. Come on,
Belgadere?
Belgadere. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Belgadere put it home, but it was 100% a goal that like was Caraballo did everything himself and made it easy for Belgadere. But so to me, if it's in the back pocket of OCB, that means they're probably doing it on the training ground at some point as well, because OCB and the senior team train together. And it would just be, I mean, I think it would just be electric. I think Caleri, if I know his distribution or his contributions haven't been great, but he really hasn't had that good of players around him, and you also question his motivation because the rumors out there that he hasn't gotten paid, or at least there's back pay that he's owed.
Yep.
So, your motivation kind of dwindles then, and, you just really wonder.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that put whatever name you want up there, right? If it's not Cagliari, pick another striker if you want to, but their main goal is to just really at that point be the fox in the box. You don't need them to create because you've got Tincho, Griezmann, Dorsey, and Gulo who are all going to be able to create for you. And then in this scenario, it's Brian Ojeda, who's going to be probably the farther forward of the two midfielders, who's going to help you with progressing the ball, which is something that Brian Ojeda is decent at when he's given the keys to do that. So all you need at that point is you need a striker who's going to be in the box, who's ready for the final ball, or somebody who's going to occupy one or both center backs so that Griezmann and Tincho can get in behind and then, get that final ball. And so, I think this is probably the best way that this team can line up. I know there'd be questions about, but are they going to start Iago? We've seen that they really haven't, so maybe not. If you really want to, which I'm not a fan of, but if you want to plug in Marin to that back three and have it Marin, Janssen, Brekalo for now, unless you get somebody like a Marquinhos in, then fine. But I think this might be the play in terms of if you want to make it as free flowing as you can. Then of course you're asking Cartagena and Gulo, Ojeda, and Dorsey to defend well, and you can defend well with 7 players, right? 7 guys behind the ball when you need to, or you would hope you can. But this team so far this year, who knows? But that would be the expectation, and I think that's a good group of guys who could do that for you.
Well, and even more, if you need an 8th or a 9th guy, Griezmann and Ojeda have both shown they're not afraid to drop back into that defensive third of the field and help. I mean, that's something that I like about Griezmann is you don't always see a player of his. I mean, look at for instance, look at Real Madrid is the biggest thing hampering them this past season was they couldn't get their forwards to press. Really, for the past 2 years since Mbappe came over, Vinicius and Mbappe don't like to press, and then you got Griezmann there, that doesn't will press. Obviously, Ojeda doesn't have near the recognition Griezmann has or career that Griezmann has to date, but he's not afraid to drop back, and he's a goal scorer. So that this when we were talking about this is kind of what I had in mind is kind of like a whatever you want to call it 3-4-2-1 5-4-1 3-6-2 however you want to call it. This is kind of what we have, and just for those listening, just so you can get a mental picture of what we've been talking about. It'd be David put up Brekalo, Janssen, Iago across the back, and Gulo, Cartagena, Brian Ojeda, and Dorsey across the defensive middle. Ojeda and Griezmann as attacking midfielders, and then he has Cagliari in here. But like he said, really just plug whatever striker you want up there.
It's a very dimensional, like multi-dimensional formation as well. You could have you could go into a 5-3-2 or a 4-3-3 or like a 3-4-3, and this formation's so multi-dimensional. It can go into so many different ways, so many different styles of play that you can go into. Like next thing you know, you're shifting into a 3-4-3 because your 2 attacking midfielders are going into wingers. And then that makes it a 5-3-2 if you want to drop, Angulo and Dorsey back into defense, and then you can drop Ojeda back as well. So there's so many different ways.
I will say this in this formation, though, because some people ask the question, what about Justin Ellis where Cagliari is? Justin Ellis doesn't fit what you're trying to do here and his current game model, right? When he was playing as a striker in his early days in OCB, maybe because he was more traditionally a striker, but then when he started to pick up those false 9 and number 10 traits, he's going to drop into the hole, and you don't want him to drop into the hole because then it ends up getting clogged again. What you want is an out-and-out striker where their only goal is think about the net and put the ball.
It's designed for like a Haaland or somebody like that who's
Yeah.
always in the box and gets a toe in, you know.
Or here's another name that we've been linked to. Richarlison would be somebody who would do the dirty work for you in a
Yeah,
situation
somebody
like
that's
that.
always in the box, never drops back, you know. He's just
Right.
always there.
Or
Because
somebody that's played for Orlando, even though he didn't perform well, was like a Clara. You know,
oh, no.
I even think if not now because he's really fallen off with
Well,
with personal.
You'd still want a presser though too. Like you'd want to make sure that that person can press, because obviously whatever your pressing cue is, and again, I'm not sure from what I've seen in the Rowdies game, I'm not sure Perlman has even really worked that out all that much in terms of what their actual pressing cues are. I think their pressing is so inconsistent from game to game, minute to minute, half to half. That's the next step they have to take, and I don't know if that's going to happen with this team under its current administration. But what I'll say is, what I would love is a striker as well who can put pressure on the goalkeeper or a center back or whatever that might be, while Ojeda and Griezmann take a look at the next sort of line that's there to try to force turnovers and flip the game quickly.
Yeah, the press on Wednesday looked out of sync big time, which I wouldn't have said that coming into the break. They looked, except for against Cincinnati, but the stretch coming down to the break, our press was actually fairly decent until it eventually got broken, and it was a mess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's just one of the things they can do if Perriman's willing to do it. That's the question, or do something like that, or make the changes. We'll see. But there's a lot of things, a lot of movement potentially going on right now, as far as rumors and everything's going on. And it's interesting how Luke brought in how dynamic that formation is, and we touched on this show as well as the main show about players to be out, or players that with Griezmann coming in we may not have room for. And one player that almost always came up was Marco Pasalic. Because when you play the 4-3-3 like Poppy played, or like we kind of weeded it out to begin with, and then it kind of possibly made a return. We don't really know exactly. And you have those out and out wingers. And you're not playing with the wingers, and they have to drop back to a midfielder or a wing back position. There's not really room for them in your team. But with that being said, it did break today that, and I'll let David take the lead on this because he knows more than I do about it. Is Marco was rumored to be making a pretty big move to the Premier League.
Yeah, I think the first thing we should kind of start on, because this news happened earlier this week, but or end of last week, Duncan Maguire got shipped out to Houston as well. So that kind of started the tip of the iceberg of moves that we expected to happen. And Duncan shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. He's on almost $1 million a year. He wasn't really contributing. Orlando City needed to try to find a way to get something back for him and get his salary off the books. And so I'm sure everybody at this point has heard about it, but Orlando City was able to get 1.25 in general allocation money, and then another 1.15 in incentives if he reaches certain incentives. I think it was like 600,000 this year, and then a little bit in the sprint season, and then the rest of it would come in the 27 and 28 season. But then, of course, the next domino to fall, and what John kind of teed me into was, so it came out earlier today from one of the Croatian sites that under their manager, Hull's manager, who obviously has a lot of links with Croatian players, he had named a handful of different Croatian players that he would like to put on his short list to bring to Hull. Because for those that don't know, Hull got promoted this year, and so they're getting that sweet money as they get promoted to go in and bring in new players, and obviously the attempt to stay up. So I think it also came out today that their president said they had 200 million euros to spend, or pounds, whatever the currency is, to spend. And so basically right before I actually did LPO tonight, it came out that apparently Hull is expected to pay at least 7 million euros to Orlando City for Marco Pasalic, which equates to about $8 million US dollars if you want to look at it that way. So, and again, that's at least that number could go up depending if Orlando City plays a little bit of hardball, which they might because they know how much money Hull has. But I think it's a good piece of business. I think it makes sense, as we've talked about a lot in the space. Marco Pasalic wanted to go back to Europe. He kept talking about wanting to go back to Europe. He's still in Europe right now. He hasn't even come back stateside from what I've understand. So again, if we can double, because we paid 4.6 ish, 4.8 for Marco. So if we could get them up to 9 million USD or get 8 million with a sell-on clause, I think that's good business for the club. And again, it does right by the player, but it also gives Orlando City a lot more money and opens up a DP spot that the club can then turn around and use.
Yeah, I mean, this is one that Marco said from the get-go. He's like, I'm coming here to revitalize my career.
Yep.
This, for those that don't know, this is a player that came up through Dortmund, basically made his senior team debut with Dortmund, the second biggest team in Germany. And injuries slowed his career down a little bit for a couple of years. And he came here and said, I'm coming to Orlando City to show that I still have quality and to get a move to, I don't even think it was one of the top 5 leagues in Europe, just to get back to a top league in Europe. And now he's going to potentially, if everything goes right, join the best league for a year in Europe. That's a slide.
Yeah, don't worry, they'll win the championship next season.
Unless he breaks out. I mean, he's a player that I could see with his physicality that could do well in England.
Yeah. The tough thing about England is it's 38 difficult games every single time. And especially if you're a relegation side, because you'll be faced with so much critic and, everyone's predicting for you to go down. Now, Hull, from what I know, is a pretty well-run club nowadays. I've got personal connections to Hull. My cousin actually was the manager of Hull back when they were last in the Premier League. But they were a pretty well-ran club. Sorry. Really well, had a few off years back in, went down to League One, then came back up again and seemed like they've got their stuff sorted. If I'm correct about this, he was, in the picture it shows that he was actually the manager of Pasalic, so there's that connection there. Now, if you're going after a team that's just won the richest game in football, which is the Championship playoff final, you should be absolutely milking the money and trying to get as much for him as possible. If you can get 15 for him, then you might as well just win the bank. Because the Championship playoff final is the richest game in football. Now, I feel like it is time for Pasalic to go. For some reason, I've got a feeling there's nothing much for him to offer here now. Because He was our big star now. And now somebody's moved in. And he wants to be that guy to kind of... And if he's got a Prem deal, he'll probably not be that guy. But he's going to the Premier League. That's the main thing about it. So, yeah, good on him. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's Premier League level, in my opinion. I feel like he's still got a lot to develop to get to that level. Now,
but it'll give him a season. It'll give him a season, and if Orlando, and this is why I want Orlando City to tack on a sell-on clause. Some people have been arguing with me and being like, "Nah, just go out and get the most money," and you can play it that way, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But my whole thing is that, like, if he goes and has a decent season in the Premier League, and let's say Hull go back down after this season, that doesn't mean another Premier League team won't come in and say, "Yeah, we think he's good enough at this level. We'll bring him in." And buy him for
like a team might go up from the Championship, like a West Ham or something like that, and they might look at him and say, "I'll have a go with him," He can
Yeah,
do a few numbers in the Prem and be a squad player, something like that. And he can
sure.
kind of solidify himself as that player, then get to probably another level than that. I feel like there is levels to his game yet, but he is getting on a bit. Like, if he was to make it, it would have to be in the next few years or so.
Well, and he's reuniting with the right coach, I think, is the bigger deal too, right? Is that
Yeah,
this guy has managed him before. He understands what he can bring to the table. Obviously, I assume he's a better player now than when Marco was with him last time. So you would expect all of those things. And to your point, like, yeah, if we can get more out of Hull, then absolutely. Like, ask for
like
more
these are
money.
the teams you need to milk because
Sure.
like they know that they've got so much money
Yeah.
coming out.
The
Like
only
it's
thing is that I think Pasalic, in terms of leverage, has tipped his hand that he wants to go so badly.
yeah, and which
So,
doesn't help us out because
right.
they're like, well, he wants to go, so we're gonna give you this much and we'll get him off your hands.
Right. And so and that's the thing, is that that's the only thing I could see them being like, well, we know he wants to go. We know you guys want to do right by the player. So we're not going to let you.
Seven's not bad because it equals about eight something. I think
Right.
Yeah,
eight,
it's like
So,
eight
which
point
isn't
nine
bad.
eight million is what it stands
But
at.
I think it'll probably go up to probably around 10 USD by the end.
I
There'll
could
be
see
some
that.
negotiations going about, and they'll probably get them up to 10.
Yeah, and again, as we kept telling people, don't expect him back in purple, and this is exactly the way that we
Yeah,
expected this to go. This shouldn't be a shock to anybody
it shouldn't be a
at this
shock. It's
point.
a shock that he's probably going to Hull, but
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
like
Yeah.
I would have probably expected him probably I don't know in like Italy, like not England.
Yeah.
England was kind of my last destination for him.
Yeah.
He wants a challenge, so if he
Yeah.
wants that challenge, good. Because
I said like, League Two in Spain, like divisions like that, where it just kind of makes a little bit more sense. But I
but
mean,
he
good on
won't.
him if he's able to.
But he won't start. That's the thing. Like
Yeah, that's fair.
he won't start. Unfortunately, he won't start. He'll be a squad player, but I think he knows that. I think he knows if he's going into the Prem, and trust me, there'll be a lot of people losing their places in that team. So he won't be short of playing time because the manager will be losing the players left, right, and center. It's a long season. It's a very, very long season. So let's see.
Yeah.
You know,
John, do you think it's good money? Like, what are your thoughts on it?
I'd want to see it closer to 10. You
Okay.
know,
yeah,
just like I know we bought him for 4 point whatever it was. 4
Yeah.
to 5 million, but he was coming from Croatia. He wanted to leave again. Like you said, he kind of tipped his hand that he wants to leave already. But that doesn't necessarily mean the club wants to sell him. We already know that the club, that Orlando City by default always wants to do what's best for the player. But at the same time, you also have to keep the best interest of the club, front
Sure.
and center. And even if it is only 7 mil, I think it'd be our third highest sale ever. And then if we get over, what was DK, like 8.6? If we get over that mark, it'd be the second highest, and then it's a pretty big gap between him and Facundo. Facundo was almost 11.
Right.
So I mean, either way, 7 mil, like with the current economics of the MLS, you can't really complain too much about it. But at the same time, I think even before all this came up, if I recall correctly, David, you and I were texting back and forth, and I think I said like 8 to 12 would be the range I'd want to see for him.
Yeah.
I
And I
feel
think
like
it just depends on if you add the sell onto it, right? If you think that he's got another step where he can get sold again and you can make a profit on it, then you do it. But this might be about as high as he's going to get at some point, especially if he's going straight into the Prem. So you might just say, no, Hull, give us 11 million and we'll be done, right? Or give us
yeah.
10 million and we're out of here,
What
right?
what the club also have to capitalize on, and I'm not telling them how to run a football club because they probably know how to run it better than me, is he's a World Cup player. You
Yeah.
know, that's what you need to label him as. He's a World
Yep.
Cup player.
96 minutes.
Yeah, 96 minutes. World
Yep,
Cup
that's what he
player.
got.
One appearance. No. But that's what you need to, World Cup players are sought after. You know, he did a job when he came into the World Cup. So that's what you need to kind of poach him as. And I don't think a World Cup player is worth 7 million. If I get a World Cup player worth 7 million, I'd buy him tomorrow. So like,
especially for Croatia.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially
Top,
for a team
top,
like
top
Croatia
nation.
who played in a really, really tough group.
Right.
Like they played in probably the toughest group in the tournament. And like I always rated him. I never thought he was a bad player.
You
Always thought
didn't at first, Luke. I'll say that. You did not at first.
what?
The first match when we in the friendly we had last year, you
Yeah.
said you didn't. You not that you doubted him. You just said you weren't. You were unsure of him.
Yeah, because he was piss. Like
Yeah, but then he gets to the first game of the season and scores a brace, and then you kind of just can't ignore it at that point.
yeah, then I can't ignore it at that point. Like
But and it also
you're only
comes
bad
to
until
effect.
you're good. What?
It also comes into effect of what we said on the main show is how it seems when Poppy would get these players that were good, how they'd kind of plateau or fall off a little bit as they adapted to his system more. And you kind of saw that with Marco at the end of last year. And this
Yeah.
year he's been battling the injury bug and World Cup, national team call ups and everything. So he hasn't really gotten much of a run of play with us. But I mean, he showed in the friendly against Colombia that he still has it. He had what 2 assists in that game and foot mob, player of the match and all that. And so I mean, he's got quality. And I mean, Colombia isn't. They
That's
made it to the round of 16 and yeah, and ended up
listen,
losing
I
the
just
penalties.
think he's done. Like there's a time when just a time when a player's up. Like system doesn't work. He needs a new revival of his career. This is it. This is more than an upgrade. In all
Oh,
Well,
honesty.
and it's good business for
I
the
mean,
club too,
it's
right?
good business for the club. Gets the club on the radar
Yeah.
a little bit. You know.
It plays into the club for a couple different reasons. Number one, it continues to show that this club is willing to move you on if there's a better opportunity for you, which this club has very much put pride in over the years, right? But then number two, you're recouping your cost. You're going to get the GAM out of this. You're going to get the DP spot that you're looking for on a guy that doesn't fit your formation anymore, doesn't fit your tactics anymore. And so you really and then on top of all of that, you're capitalizing on the World Cup exposure that he just got, right? And so you find a way to kind of flip that, and that's exactly what you're doing. Now, unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be able to do that with Brian Ojeda or Maxime Crepeau. I think both of them are going to be Orlando City players when this is all said and done. And again, I'm not thrilled by Maxime Crepeau, and John and I have had a lot of conversations about this, but because even his World Cup numbers are not good. You can go and look at them; they're not great. But yeah, I think it's just good business by the club. Whatever that number ends up being, obviously, we'll feel better the higher that number is. But even if it's $8 million USD, 7 million euros with a sell on, I'm okay with that. It's a decent number. It's not double, but it's close. And again, the club parts ways with a player that doesn't fit, and they're able to bring in a player that does.
Yeah, and Ricardo, he seems to love those sell on clauses when dealing players. I think every player he's dealt has had one, which is good. Especially when
Yeah.
it's players that
Even
may
Duncan,
have
we just
not.
dealt. He
Yeah,
got a sell on clause. Like we were able to get again, if we get everything out of him, which we hope we do, that's 2.5 million. We'll get out of Houston, and we've got a sell on clause. So if Duncan does get another move somewhere else, we're gonna make more money off of Duncan.
no, definitely.
He's also going to like I wouldn't say it was a nice area of England, Pasalic, but it is a nice area. So he's fortunate on that standpoint where he'll be in a good club, good place. Good money for him. Try to milk as much as you can for him, and then just move him on.
Well, and
Because
even if this falls through, I think there's gonna be other interest, right? Like there's a good contingent of the higher level Croatian players that are playing in Italy. So like Italy might eventually still come calling if Hull for
yeah,
some reason doesn't work out.
like no, I wouldn't say Inter, but I'd say like somebody in between there, like kind of on the up. So like Cesc Fabregas's team. like a Como or I think that's what it is.
Yeah, a mid tier team.
Yeah, like a mid tier team, somebody that would kind of get
I
you.
could I could even see him. You know, I know you said League Two in France. I could even see him, or in Spain. Sorry, I could even see him going to a mid tier
Like the Liga.
League One or La Liga, or going to one of the upper mid tier teams in France
Or in
as
Portugal.
well.
Portugal's another one I
Yeah,
could see. If it's not one of the big two, it's probably, he could get in there.
yeah, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
I could.
Moving on to who's potentially coming in. You want to go on the? You can take the lead on this one, David, and I'll just kind of follow you.
Yeah, you want to talk about Moreno first?
Yeah, we can talk about him first since we haven't
Okay.
talked about him yet.
So this story is interesting. So yesterday, I going through my morning ritual, whatever, and then I start hearing from a couple of birdies early in the morning that Orlando City is finally starting to kind of make a move at a defender, because I've been bothering a few people that I know and have been talking to of when's Orlando City going to get into the game of getting a defender, because we keep hearing about strikers and strikers and strikers and strikers, and then of course we got the Marquinhos at one point, we got Benindetti, the kid from Estudiantes, but like we really haven't been talking a lot about defenders, and we know Orlando City's got to get better in defense. And so two of them kind of sprinkled to me, well, hey, there's this guy in La Liga. He's in La Liga 2 now, but the club is very serious about him, and it sounds like we're gonna offer him a deal of some sort. So his name is Alex Moreno. He just turned 33. He's a 33-year-old Spanish left back who plays for Girona, who just went down to La Liga 2 this season. They're gonna go to the second division of Spanish football. They were unfortunately just relegated. And so when you go back and you do a lot of looking and a lot of searching, he's basically a lifelong Spanish league kind of player, right? He starts his academy career in one of the better academies in Spain outside of Barcelona's academy. He does spend a little bit of time with Barcelona's academy for about 2 years before he makes the move to Ligestro, which was in the third tier of Spanish football. So he starts all the way down in the third tier of Spanish football. After that, he spends a year at Mallorca, who at the time was in the second division. They've gone up, and now they've since gone back down to the second division. And then he starts getting some real stints at some bigger football clubs. So he spends a couple of years with Rayo Vallecano. He spends a couple of years at Real Betis. And then actually after all of that is done and how well he played, he gets a move to Aston Villa, where he spends a bit of time at Aston Villa. He spends a season on loan with Nottingham Forest. And then this past season, he just spent the year with Girona, who, like I said, has just been relegated. So who is this guy, right? We've been talking a lot about him. Who is he? What is he like? So he's a fullback, left fullback, who very much has a lot of talent and a lot of skill with getting forward and progressing the ball as he gets upfield. And so one of the awesome things that you can kind of see from his game is, like I said, the progression stats are awesome. But what's really great is even when he progresses the ball, he's a very good dribbler when he has it. So he's very good at like getting the ball up the pitch, being able to maintain possession up the pitch, really push the ball. As John just kind of pulled up this graphic here, one of the stats that Opta likes to use a lot, that I think is really great, is player impact. So they give a player impact score from 0 to 100. And for them, they gave him a score of 85, which is elite, which is the elite level. So how much impact does he have on the pitch? The stat right next to it that I think is really interesting and that you should look at is threat prevented, which is a really great defensive stat that Opta uses to figure out how effective a defender is. He's in the 97th percentile in La Liga for left backs for threats prevented. So not only is he great at getting forward and being able to affect the game there, he's also very good on the defensive side of the ball. Now, again, if you look at some of the other defensive stats, 7th percentile in tackling, 64th percentile in block shots, Really great numbers there. And then, of course, if you get to the blue part of the chart, which is all of your sort of progression stats and your passing stats, 94th percentile in progressive carries. 94th percentile. That is a crazy number, especially in a league like La Liga that has a lot of great fullbacks in that league who are obviously at the top end. You're looking at Real Madrid, Barcelona, teams like that. But for him to be on a team that just got relegated to be in the 94th percentile in progressive carries is an awesome number. And then, of course, there's a couple other stats that you can look at as well that are pretty decent. So his expected goals, 97%, but his actual goals at 0. You don't love to see that because that means he's getting into chances where goals should be created and he didn't finish them. But he's a fullback. I don't really care that much that he's not finishing them. You maybe want to see a little bit more contribution there, but I'm not losing sleep over something like that. So really awesome kind of two-way stats, I think is the best way to put it, on something that you want to look at. And then one more thing that I kind of want to look at, and one of my favorite kind of scouting sites breaks down a bunch of different categories like final product, receiving, dribbling, progression, things like that. One of the things that I really love from him, and I've talked about progression stats a lot, and I've talked about dribbling, is they have a stat or kind of a bucket, really, for lack of a better term, that I really like is an active defending stat. So it's like, what does this defender do to actively stop, opposition when they come forward? And out of the top 5 leagues, because this one measures the top 5 leagues, he ends up on active defending being in the 84th percentile in the top 5 leagues in fullbacks. Out of all fullbacks in the top 5 leagues, he's in the 84th percentile for active defending. So this guy is very much doing all the work on both sides of the ball to make sure that he's affecting the game. So all that stuff sounds great, right? That's the whole like sprinkle, what he can provide, all that kind of other stuff. One of the things that kind of came out online today, and I'll turn it over to these guys after that because I'm curious to see their thoughts on it, is some people, and my colleague at LPO was one of those people, who was very concerned by his injury history. So it's worth mentioning, right? So he missed this past season, he missed 4 games due to a calf injury. The season before that, he missed 5 games. I was told it was not, when he missed those 5 games at Forest, I was told it was not because he was actually injured. I was told it was because he didn't know what his future was going to be. And there was a lot of like weird back and forth between him and his agent. Again, I don't know how true that was, but that's what I heard. And then if you go to the 23-24 and the 22-23 season, and the 22-23 season is when he tore his hamstring and required surgery. So he required surgery when he was with Villa, the first season he was there. He required surgery and missed the last 7 games of the season for Villa that first season. And then the beginning of the following season, he missed another 7 games because he was still recovering from his surgery that he had on his hamstring. But again, he only missed 7 games on each side of that. And then also at the same time, Digne also took his spot back from him because when he came into Villa, he took Digne's spot because Digne was injured. But then when he got injured, Digne took his spot back from him. So there's this weird back and forth between those two guys. And if you don't know, Digne's on his way to PSG. Most likely he's on his way to PSG. So that's the kind of caliber of fullback that we're talking about here. And then if you go one more year back, because I went all the way back to 21-22, he missed 3 games for a knock, but those were not together. Those were separate instances. So if you look at a percentage, he's, aggregate percentage, he's only missed 8% of his team's full season games over the time he's been there. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he hasn't had some injury history. I'd be lying to you. But to put the idea that he is injury prone or that he's a high injury risk, I think is unfair to a player that for the most part has not really been in that situation. Guys, don't forget as well, and again, bad comp for some people, but I got to put it out there anyway. Adrian Marine missed 30% of his games before he came to Orlando City. 30% of his games that season he missed for Braga. So if we're going to sit here and complain, you could have complained about that, which nobody complained about when Adrian Marine came in. What they complained about was his quality, right? Which arguably should have been complained about. Another couple of Orlando City guys before I turn it over to you guys. João Moutinho missed more time when he was with Orlando City. In the 3 seasons he was with Orlando City, he missed 16%, 29%, and 58% of his games with Orlando City. But again, when João Moutinho was on the field, he was good, right? And then last one that I want to kind of give a point to is Donnie Toya. So I'm going way back now. Donnie Toya, when he played for Orlando City, missed 10% of his games. His last season with Montreal, he missed 10% of his games. Or second to last season. His last season with Montreal, he missed 29% of his games. And then with Orlando City, he missed 7% of his games with Orlando City in the first season. So again, I'm not trying to excuse injuries, but what I'm trying to say is this guy fits within the average of how many games a fullback can miss in a season. And he's not had he's never had a moment like Neymar, let's say, who has missed large swaths of games and is out for a long period of time, right? So anyway, I'll turn it over to you guys, your thoughts about him, everything I just talked about there.
Yeah, on the injury front, I mean, you look at a player like Pulisic, for instance, since the World Cup's going on, obviously that's front and center. But I mean, how many times just on the national team have we ended a break that he hasn't come out of it injured? I mean, you look at what happened back in September.
Mm-hmm.
He missed significant time, for Milan after that. Or you could even go with somebody like, an extreme and be like DK. DK's played what, 6 games in 2 seasons or something like that.
Yeah.
I know it's less than 10. So I mean, missing single-digit percentage matches over several years. Obviously the one year he had a knee injury. Almost everybody in the sport at some point in time, when you get to that level, is most likely going to have a knee injury. So it happens. You just kind of are thankful it didn't happen when he's on your team. But I mean, his stats look like exactly somebody we would need. To not just on the attacking and not just on the defending. I mean, he kind of does a good thing of both. In my opinion, you don't want your to go back to the chart that I pulled up.
Mm-hmm.
I'll bring it back up here. You don't want your fullback blocking a lot of shots.
Right.
You don't want them intercepting a lot of passes necessarily, because if they're intercepting a lot of passes, there's probably somebody running 30 yards behind them to goal, and if he doesn't intercept that, it's bad. You want him to be able to tackle, and then, with the style that Perelman seems to want to be playing, where you play with the very progressive fullbacks, or if he goes with the 3 center backs, you have the wing backs, then he fits that perfectly. Obviously, you'd want to see his assist percentage a little higher, his expected assist percent a little bit higher, and passes completed a little bit higher. But you look at his carries, that's incredible. I mean, 94% percentile in progressive carries is crazy. 85% in player impact is crazy. And 97% in threats prevented is crazy. I mean, that's, you look at most of the best players in the league play off of our defensive left side.
Yeah.
Messi plays there. Hani Mukhtar tends to drift into that position. And it's been something we haven't had, as inconsistent as he was, we haven't had a very consistent left back since João Moutinho.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because he was pretty good when he was able to be on the pitch. And, if we were able to get him, that'd help immensely. And, everything to me looks like it's, as long as the price is right, shapes up to be a pretty decent deal. As
And
long
John,
as
real quick, to add to your progression thing, just to give a little bit more stats on it, fields gained by carries, which is a statistic that Opta uses. Fields gained is basically you gain 20 yards or greater in a single progressive movement. He ranks in the 97th percentile in that. And then carries to the final third, which is exactly where you want him to get the ball to, 98th percentile in that one as well. So again, he's not going to do it passing wise. That's not necessarily his game. He's not going to pass the ball progressively to get it upfield, but he physically is going to be able to carry the ball up the field to where you want it to be. And then in total progressive actions, so all actions in total, he's in the 88th percentile. He's doing 150. This past season, he had 152 progressive actions in a single season. Like, that's bonkers for a left back. Like, that's nuts, right? And again, like we just talked about, we don't need him to be a finisher. We're not looking for a Dorsey on the other side, right? We know at this point Dorsey's probably going to give us what, 5 to 7 goals in all comps by the time the season's done, I would imagine, something like that. He's not going to do that for you. He's not going to get you 5 or 7 goals. But he very easily, like we just talked about with Angulo, could be getting a lot of hockey assists, right? He could be getting the ball into areas that allow Griezmann and Tincho to create and allow them to do what they need to do in order to get the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I'll say, for lack of better terms, the hard part of our attack is going to be getting to the ball into those positions where Tincho and Griezmann, especially if we go with the formation that I showed earlier that we were talking about. The important part and the hard part is getting that ball into the final third. And if you have him on the left side and Dorsey on the right side able to do that, and with Brian Ojeda's passing ability, with Cartagena, what he's shown, not this year, but in the past years, with his passing ability, and Tincho and Griezmann speak for themselves with their abilities just to distribute the ball out wide. It would be, game changing is a stretch, but it would be an amazing
John,
help.
Can you put one more of my visuals up there for me? The box defending one that I sent you, because I kind of want to talk about that for a second, and then I'll turn it over to Luke and see kind of what his total thoughts are. But one of the other things that I really liked, and again, this comes from one of the various tools that I'm able to pull from, but what this sort of app does is it looks at defenders and gives you their defensive statistics for in the box defending, channel defending, flank defending, and set piece defending, I think, are the 3 that they give you options for. And then they rank them on a scale from 0 to 100, right? Remember, this guy's a left back, and again, he's being comped to the rest of the top 5 of the league, right? 100% in box defending for a left back of his stature. 100 is the percentile that they're ranking him in. The only thing he comes down a little bit is aerial duels. He's not the tallest dude in the world, but it doesn't matter. I don't need him to be, right? But tackling, clearances, blocks, interceptions, all in the box, he is elite at. This number tells me he is incredibly elite in the top 5 leagues. And then if you look at the figure right next to it that says clearances, he had 64 clearances for Girona this year, which I would argue is probably one of the highest you would have seen in that league, right? Because I'm sure Girona was getting shelled all season, especially if they went down. I imagine they got shelled. But again, he's a left back, and he's able to defend in the spaces that we need him to defend in. How many times have we beaten Adrian Marine or whatever other left back we put out there over the head for not being able to defend in certain situations? He's showing you right now that he can defend in those situations. So I just thought this was a really good graphic to kind of give you a different perspective of, like, you want to talk about how good of a defender he is. This tells me that in box defending, he is that defender and then some. He's decent at the other ones too. I don't want to take that away from him. Channel defending, not as much, but you don't expect a fullback to be great at the channel defending. You expect your center backs or your defensive midfielders to take care of that. And the flank defending, he's around the 60th percentile, which is slightly above average. That's fine. I don't need him to be better than that.
But reiterate what you're saying, David. That's against top 5 leagues. That's not just La Liga. So that's Premier League, Bundesliga, League One in France, obviously La Liga, and then
Italy would be the last one.
Italy, yeah. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah.
Yeah. So again, in perspective, you can kind of understand that. And again, like, he's middle of the road for recoveries when you're talking about flank defending. He's above average in interceptions, above average in aerial duels, and his tackling is slightly above average. That's fine. You don't need him to do anything more than that. And especially in MLS, if your main goal is to get him forward, great, he's going to do that stuff. But especially in MLS, where you're really going to get weird and kind of murky, is the box defending, and that he can do well. And that's what you want him to do well. When you switch to that sort of back 5 and have them all defend, you want him to be able to do that. So again, again, he's got the pedigree, right? We've talked about that. He's got the statistics to kind of go with it. Be really interesting to see how it goes. Luke, I know we haven't heard much from you on it, but what do you think about Alex Moreno?
If John can go back to the other graphic before, I don't know if you can do that or not. If you want to go back to the other graphic
I
before,
got you.
yeah. So one thing that really stuck out for me was like, just his XG is off the charts but playing devil's advocate,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter because I do not want my left back scoring goals. What really bothers me is that his XG is off the charts, which is great, but I want to see all these defensive, his shots blocked and everything go up. I need everything to be worked on in there. You're a left back first, and then if you want to be a left winger, well, blooming heck, you've got the stats for the assists and the goals. Like, that's the only thing that kind of, like, progressive carries is off the charts as well. He looks like he's a bloody left winger by the sounds of it. But if he just focuses on the stuff which he knows he's not good at, which is obviously, 70% I think is all right. I think it's pretty good. But like interceptions, shots blocked, and successful defensive actions, which are probably the three most basic things in defending,
Yeah.
he has to work on those. Because
So
he's
let
the
me-
left back first.
There's another chart that I'm referencing that, and again, I think it's because however this is deciding what the
Yeah.
the data is, but
Yeah.
to dig deeper in my other chart for tackles plus interception. So again, that's a pretty common stat for defensive stats.
Yeah.
He in the top 5 leagues, he ranks in the 75th percentile in
Okay.
tackles plus interceptions. For recoveries, he ranks in the 70th percentile. Box clearances, he's in the 90th percentile in total box clearances. So block shots, he's at the 80th percentile. So when you look at the top 5 leagues, I think he's doing what you expected to. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this might be more per 90 stats. Yeah, I think it is. It is per 90 stats, and that's why. And when you get into pure 90 stats, it gets a little weird. These are his pure statistics from last season. This is everything. What I have in front of me
Yeah.
is purely what he's done last season.
Like
So-
it's the important parts that he's not really hitting, if you get what I mean. Like final third pass completions. Like that's kind of what you need from your left back, especially if he's going to be like kind of a left wing back. If his final third pass completions, he has to get the ball to a forward or to a striker or somewhere. Like his pass completions is the same as his final third pass completions and his passes that are progressive. And if he is going to be like a left wing back, that's not good enough either. So
Yeah,
question
the
is
interesting thing-
like,
The interesting thing, which I didn't get a chance to comp against, is looking at Angulo's numbers this year and kind of putting because again, he's played mostly as a left wing back this year, comping him against those numbers, and then also looking at what you would consider to be a good left wing back to see kind of where he ranks in. I haven't had an opportunity to do that, so I apologize for that. But yeah, I'm with you. I get
David,
that. The final ball
this-
needs a little work.
I'm gonna pull a chart up now. Is this the chart that you were talking about? Kind of a cropped it out.
Yeah.
So this gives you a little better sense.
Yeah,
on what
because
that
those
other
are
one-
based on raw numbers. So that's exactly what happened this season for him. So this isn't like extrapolating. It's not doing anything crazy. It is, these are the numbers that they are. So this is where he ranked in the top 5 leagues this past season. And on a little bit higher up on that same chart, John, there is it does talk about the passes piece. So there is under the progression stat, for example, it says like passes to the final third. He ranked in the 65th percentile and passes to the final third. So again, I don't know how that necessarily ranks against the guys that we already have, and again against good left wing backs, but 65% is above, or 65 percentile is above average, but it's not much above average.
There you go.
yeah, his progression, good, like not bad. His long passes, ooh, hopefully he's not pinging any balls anytime soon.
But if we play in that 3-4-2-1 or whatever you want to call it, if he's more of a wing back, he shouldn't be the one having long passes. You know.
Yeah. He shouldn't be in those spaces in the beginning. But the passes to final third is like again, like
Yeah,
forward.
again, too, the other thing we have to keep in mind is this is the top 5 leagues. So if
Yeah,
he's doing this ranked against the top 5 leagues, what does he look like if he's coming to MLS, which is a top 10 league, I think some would say?
Yeah, I think it's eighth right now, depending on
Maybe.
who you ask.
So again, like, I
15.
don't want to say
I'm joking. I'm joking. It's not
I don't
15.
want to say he's gonna like hit the ground running, right? Because we
Yeah.
saw what happened with Adrian Marine. But like, if he's able to like, to Luke's point, if he's able to half step level that, not even a full step, if he's able to just half step level that up, he's better than, because again, the one I think of in terms of getting forward and kind of aimlessly putting the ball in is Rafa Santos. When we had Rafa Santos, like, the guy could get up and down the wing, but like, guy had no final ball. Like, half the time nobody got on the end of his crosses at all.
Mate,
And
I just don't want David. All I want is just for the last like 5 years we've had a one-dimensional left back.
yeah, that's fair.
Like we literally went
Yeah.
from Rafa Santos to Spanish Rafa Santos. It was the exact same player in the exact same position and do the exact same thing. And it'll be a breath of fresh air to get something different from a left back. Like, and he will definitely, statistically and probably visually, because I've not really watched him, I've never seen him before, he would probably offer something different. And that's all I want, you know?
Does the injury history bother either one of you?
Not too much, to be honest with you.
You know,
No.
it's always a caution. It's always a cautionary tale when you have a player with a lot of injuries. You know, even we've seen it. Like Gaston Gonzalez couldn't get out of the flipping medical room, but he was a cautionary tale too. But he's
Sure.
not a forward. He's a left
Yeah.
back. And
Well, and I'll say this too, right? Like, we stopped the Dusan Stojanovic transfer earlier this year because of
Yeah.
a failed medical. So you would imagine that Orlando City is obviously going to do that level of due diligence
yeah,
on this guy as well.
yeah,
So if they go and look at him and they see his hamstring shot, right, or if his calf is going to be a problem, they're going to put a halt to the deal.
yeah. I think we've made our mistakes in the past, and we're not
Yeah.
doing it again. Like, if there's any up in the air, anything with a player, they're just gonna kick him to the curb. Especially if it's like a big thing, like a hamstring or a calf. You know,
Yeah.
that's just the way. That's that's the game nowadays. If you're not fully fit when you come in, then you're not going to be fully fit. Then when you step into training.
That's true.
That's just the way it is. And yeah, I think again I'll just reiterate it's going to be, if we do get him, I said it's going to be a breath of fresh air, because for the last 5 or 6 years we've had the same centre back in two different nationalities with the same type of style of play. So to get him in would be great. So
And here's some more. I just cropped that down because David sent me the whole screen,
yeah,
so I had to crop it down a little bit. Um, but basically, here is kind of his creation and crossing stats. Obviously, crossing one thing he's not good at
No.
there. Sorry, the definition's a little bad on it, but um,
blooming
you can
out.
still see like some of the stuff is. There we go. That's a little better. There we go. You can still see it's pretty. It's good, and again, like with what I would expect a left wing back to play in, and the formation that we're assuming they're going to go with, some variation of that. It doesn't have to be exactly that, but some variation of that, where you're going to have Tincho or Griezmann coming over to get the ball rather than it having to be crossed into them. He doesn't have to be good at crossing,
Right.
So I mean, a lot of the passing stats are very positive, some borderline elite. Like David's been saying, these stats here are against top 5 leagues, not just La Liga.
Yep.
So I mean, you know, everything I'm seeing is a plus. With how I would assume they're gonna try to play, especially since Perelman's known as an attacking minded coach. This is this is what I would expect, is for us to be more of a team that works the ball into the box now than a team that we've traditionally been, which is where we're just whipping crosses in, half blind.
And let me say this too that we haven't really touched on yet is like we've talked about, he spent a lot of time in La Liga and then down in the second division as well, a little bit of time in England. But number one, Griezmann's probably seen a ton of this guy in his career over in La Liga, right? So, and again, I don't know that there's a connection, but there might have been a whisper of like, hey, we're looking for a left back. I know about this guy. And, Girona just got relegated. We might be able to get him on a good deal, right? Because they got to shed his salary. That's the other thing. The big thing is like he's one of the most expensive salaries on their roster, and like they can't afford him. They need to get rid of him because he's stuck, and they don't want him to walk for free next year. But then the second part of it too is that he's got the caliber of competition, right? Not only has he played in La Liga, but he's played for Villa, he's played for Forest, so he's played in the Premier League as well, having an opportunity to play against some pretty good opponents over his time over the last couple of years. And so he's got a pedigree that you're kind of looking for.
Absolutely.
I think for me though, it comes down to the money, and I think that's where this gets a little tricky, because obviously you don't want him to be a DP, so you have to find a way to like make this work. His last transfer was 2 million euros is what Girona bought him for. So can Orlando City come in because they know this guy's contract is only got a year left? Can they come in and say, and we know you got to shed the salary, so we'll give you $1 million and we spread that out over 2 or 3 years? Is it something like that? Because I crunched some numbers, and basically the way I looked at it was, if you buy him for 1 mil or 1.5 mil and then pay him like $500,000 to $700,000 a year, he's high level TAM, but you can afford it. You can fit it in the salary cap.
Yeah. That's he would be, from what I see, he'd be a TAM player for sure, especially if you're able to spread it out over a couple of years. He'd be kind of the Brian Ojeda situation when we brought him over, kind of the same, salary structure and everything. A little different because that's in interleague, but
or you can do what Miami's doing and just buy him a house under the table. And then they said, there you go.
Well, I also was going to say, like, they could give him performance incentives. So if they're like, hey, you hit a certain amount of minutes, or if we win a trophy, we give you this, or whatever it is. They could give him incentives like that.
So many secondary assists.
But again, I think the other big thing, and I get a lot of people online are like, oh, he's old. He's 32. He's 33. That's old. But there's a level of seasoning that you would get with this guy that this team doesn't have. Sure, they just got that with Antoine Griezmann. But, like, to me, there's a benefit to, again, like I've talked about already in terms of his caliber of competition he's played in and all that kind of stuff. But you're getting another guy, though, that has played on some tough teams, has got the pedigree and everything that you want with it. And I think that's the benefit that you get. And again, this is not a Adrian Marine caliber signing. Adrian Marine came over off of a free. Braga basically pushed him out of town. He wasn't really doing well in any of the last couple teams he was on. And so Orlando City said, we'll take a flyer on this guy and see. And unfortunately, I think we're just paying him too much money and we're stuck with him at this point.
Yeah.
But again, his contract is up at the end of the year. So if the club doesn't want him, they can just part ways and that's it, right? With this guy, I think it's different. Yes, he's older for sure. He's seasoned. But if he's healthy and his health checks out, he's giving you stuff that your left back room cannot give you right now, number one. And you're giving Griezmann more weapons around him to compete. Because again, this team is continuing to talk about, we're here to compete for trophies. Ricardo put an S on the end of that. He didn't say trophy, he said trophies. And so if you're going to do something like that, you want to bring guys like this into the squad in order to, make sure that they can compete.
You're going to have to balance the books a little bit.
Sure, but they always were going to have to do that.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying, like, this is the time to now figure it out. Like, you can't just, if you want to win trophies, you're going to have to balance the books and find ways to bring in players and, like, manage this salary cap that's been here the whole time. If other teams are doing it, why can't you?
Yeah. Well, and I
Well,
think,
yeah, and we all know because we've talked about it multiple times, and this isn't giving Ricardo an excuse by any means, because I fully believe that his clock started today on whether he's going to have a chance to be a successful GM or not here. But he was handed a bet. What he came into, even though he was the assistant, but he's not the one making structuring the salaries and everything, structuring the contracts the way they are. There was a good percentage of the contracts that were bad contracts when he came in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're still there. There's still several that are there. So I really feel that he has had a lot to deal with, and a little more than a year being the new GM. But I feel like it's something that he's getting there. The dunk obviously, and some of them, like David was saying, some of them you have to take risks and business period. And the Marin one didn't work out. Duncan at the time didn't seem like a risk. It seemed like we lucked out, but that didn't end up. That ended up not working out because of unforeseen injuries. So I really think that it's that Moreno is somebody that we bring in, and he, I think that there's a lot of upside to it. And plus, people saying he's 33, to me, 33 today is what 30 was 5 years ago in the sport. Because you look at this World Cup, for instance, look at how many guys,
40
are
39.
in that 32, 33 and above range that are absolutely dominating the World Cup.
yeah.
I'm just guessing. I don't know. How old's Harry Kane? I feel like he's been playing for an eternity. That's why I'm
32.
asking. 32, exactly. As much as I hate to say it, Messi, he's, 37, 38 years old. Top, one of the top goal scorers. So, I really think with modern medicine and science and everything that, players' careers have been extended a little bit longer and everything. I mean, look at Tim Ream. Everybody's going to make fun of him because he had a bad last game against Belgium. He was still on the squad and was still the team captain, and he's 38 years old. So I feel like, that maybe, here recently within the last 5 years, when, used to you get a player at 30, 31, 32, you're like, oh, they have 2, maybe 3 years left.
2 or 3 years left.
Yeah, and now you're getting that player at 33, 34 thinking that. And,
Well, what I was saying is he's also a defender, so defenders
yeah,
last longer, like all the time. So that's kind of like the main thing about it is like if he's a defender, they last longer than forwards. So
Yeah.
And the other,
lasts.
I think the other way to look at the books too is that, if you're going to make this deal, you could always ship out Marine. There's been interest from Spain to bring him back over. So maybe you find a team that's willing to take a flyer on it. Or Orlando City has not used either one of its buyouts this season, as far as we know. So, or they at least have one left. So they have the option to buy him out if they really want to buy him out and not wait until the end of the season to make themselves cap compliant. But I think that, again, this gives them a look at left back that they don't currently have. Because, again, Angulo is decent going forward. He is not the best defender. Everybody can tell you that at this point, right? This guy, you would be upgrading defense for sure, and then getting a little bit worse of an attacking piece, but not that much worse, because this guy's still going to progress the ball for you and do well there. And again, Angulo doesn't have an end product. We've talked about that. So if this guy doesn't either, then you're not losing anything there. But even if this guy can give you a few more assists or even a goal or two, then great, you take it and you run with it. Because to me, fullbacks getting goals are bonuses, right? If you get goals from fullbacks, great. You're getting a bonus out of it. But yeah, I don't know. I think he just kind of fits what Orlando City is looking to do, and I just don't think he's as big of a risk as people are making it out to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean the other one I wanted to touch on, I can't remember his name because I don't have a graphic for him, was the striker from Brazil. Just to touch on an update of that, David.
Yeah, so Orlando City for a little while has been linked to Jonathan Cagliari, who is a striker for Sao Paulo. The last time I was on the show with the guys, we talked about all of his stats and various other things he can do and how much we were willing to to kind of like, look at him and what have you. So the situation at Sao Paulo has gotten worse now. So according to sources there, Cagliari back on the 6th, so about a week ago, he met with Sao Paulo's front office group, and basically the meetings went very, very poorly. Basically, Sao Paulo was talking about not giving him his back pay, which he still owed. They also didn't want to meet his demands for his new contract because he had all these demands that he wanted for a new contract. And he apparently walked into the meeting and said that he had 2 offers, one from Orlando City and one from Monterrey in Mexico. Turns out, after some sleuthing and various other things, the one from Monterrey was not real. Monterrey was just interested. They didn't actually like present him with an offer. But according to Cagliari's camp, as well as Sao Paulo, allegedly, Orlando City did give him an offer and apparently offered him some money to potentially come over and join Orlando City. My cohort on Loud and Proud Orlando had also heard from some folks on the Brazilian side and basically had said that they knew the deal was real as well, but Cagliari was looking for $380,000 a month USD if he were to come over and join Orlando City, and that apparently Orlando City were willing at the time to come up to that offer. To do the quick math for everyone, that's a DP number. $380,000 a year is about a little bit over $4 million in total. As I talked about on the last show, Cagliari is not worth that kind of money. The stats that he showed us, the underlying numbers, the whole 9 yards, he's not a DP player to me. To me, it makes absolutely no sense for Orlando City to offer this guy a DP deal. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, we said it last time we were on and talked about him. Like, Tam, sure, fine, whatever, bring him in, but he's definitely not a DP. To me, there's bigger fish out there that we should easily be able to get. Not easily, but you know what I mean, that are gettable to fill that DP spot that once Marco's sold that we will have.
Yeah.
And then also the influx in cash that we'll have. For that, from his deal as well, that will be good. That there's just better out there, and that doesn't even have to be a Rick Carlson, or Santi Jimenez. There's just such a number of quality strikers out there that need new clubs or are looking for a move or to, even get somebody that's in their, mid-20s like we did with Marco that needs to reignite their career, bring them in here for the 2 years Griezmann's here, win, hopefully a handful of trophies, and then, on to the next. But, him coming on a DP just makes zero sense with his lack of contribution.
I think the only way I can palate him at this point coming over is that maybe they do a loan to buy thing and like give him the rest of the season, see what he can do. And if he ends up being like halfway decent or good, then they come up with some kind of option and they figured it out after the fact. I don't know. But to make him DP out the gate just doesn't make any sense to me. I just don't get how that fits or how that works. And then like to touch on Santi Jimenez, for those that have been watching the World Cup, you saw him get injured in Mexico's last game. He's now going to be sidelined for 6 to 8 weeks. And according to Marca, the big outlet that's over in that's in that side of the world, in Mexico and that kind of thing, had basically said that nobody's interested in him at this point because he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks and nobody wants to wait for him to get healthy, which, duh. Like, Orlando City shouldn't be waiting around for this guy. There are other people in the market. I'm pretty sure we did a similar thing when Richarlison picked up his knock last window, why we were probably out on Richarlison at that point too, because, again, you're not going to wait around. There are a bunch of other options on the market that you can, kind of fit in there. So no more Santi Jimenez. If that's really what Cagliari's number is, I hope to God Orlando City is not considering that. If they do, I'll have some questions to ask Ricardo, because to me that doesn't make a ton of sense. Again, on a TAM deal, a little bit more tolerable. On a DP deal, absolutely not. I think there's better ways you can spend that money. So it'll be interesting to see. But again, since that week ago-ish kind of thing of what I heard and what my partner over at LPO heard, and then also what's kind of out there publicly, there hasn't really been much movement in a week, but maybe that's now because Orlando City has heard that teams are interested for Marco Pasalic and a spot's opening now. And so maybe they might go bigger fish hunting versus what they were going to do before.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, DP just doesn't make sense at all. Anything else on the transfer world that we need to cover before we move on? Not that I can
No,
think of.
I think that's mostly it. I will say, and kind of the most that I can really share at this point, but there could be a reunion for Orlando City with an old player. I've heard rumors that something might be in the works to reunite an old player with Orlando City. That's all I'll say right now, but fans should not be shocked if this kind of comes to fruition.
Definitely. And it's one that to be cautiously excited about. I'll just add that little bit to it.
Cautiously optimistic.
Yes, there you go. Moving on, kind of on the transfer front, obviously, David and I were able to see Griezmann play his, first match for Orlando City, public match for Orlando City. Just we kind of skipped over just a couple takeaways on his game, what we saw in that kind of small sample size. What was it, 60 minutes against obviously a much lesser opponent than what he'll be seeing in the MLS, but nonetheless, you can still kind of get a grasp of what he's going to be doing, what he's going to be trying to do. What do you think, David?
Yeah.
Anything specific that stood out to you with how he performed?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and it's going to get better and better as time goes on, right, is I think you started to see, especially in the later stages of the first half, him really trying to put his imprint on the game. Like he would pull guys over, chat with them real quick, then get them to get to a different spot. Or there was a couple times where he got upset, not super upset, but like you could tell he was a little PO'd that like Atuesta got too far forward and he's trying to yank him back. So those were the things that you wanted to see, right? Those were the things that you expected for a guy, especially that, from what we understand, has not demanded the armband. He's okay with Janssen keeping the armband for now. He's not looking to take that away from him or anything like that. But he's doing his own like coaching on the side. He's coaching up the offense. He understands, where he needs to get involved there. But the other thing too is that like even the simplest touch for Griezmann is so simple it's like crazy, right? That was the biggest thing that I saw. And he's making these passes that are just like ridiculous. Like these one-touch passes where you're like, you got to be kidding me. Like, what? And it reminds me of the time, like, when Luis Nani came over, and we had Nani for a while, but Nani's was more like his first touch would put him in a great spot to beat the guy, and then he would go and beat the guy and then, do what he was going to do there. But, like, Griezmann's just so silky smooth when he's passing the ball, even when his back is to goal, even when, he's facing a different direction. He just always knows kind of where the next guy is and what ball he needs to play. And some of his teammates throughout the game weren't in the right spots. They're going to get better at that as they get used to him. But, like, you just could see the silky smoothness of, like, what his game was and what he can provide. And you expect that out of a world-class player, right? That's what the club expected to get out of Griezmann. And to be honest with you, John, I wasn't going into this being like, he's got to score a goal tonight. He's got to get an assist tonight. But the guy went and did both. Like, anyway, like, it didn't matter. So it was cool to see, like, how quickly he was able to do it. But you expect him to do that against the Rowdies, right? You're playing down a level. So you expect him to do that. What I'm really curious to see is how does he play this Wednesday against FC Dallas? We won't be able to see it. We'll be able to listen to it. For those that don't know, FC Dallas will be putting out a radio broadcast on their YouTube channel. Make that make sense. I don't get that at all, but sure. But you'll be able to listen to it. So I'm very curious to see how those guys or gals or whoever describe his play, because I'm sure they'll talk about him. There's no way they don't. So I'll be really curious to see how they describe his play. And then, of course, we'll probably get a clip here or there from Orlando City socials when we score or do whatever. So I'll be really curious to see what that looks like. But yeah, I mean, he was every bit of class, especially in terms of distribution that you would expect him to be.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the part I wanted to talk about, but like his goal, he just made it look so simple.
Yeah.
And he dribbled around, not even through. It was kind of through, but through and around 4, 5, 6 defenders.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys you would have seen, you see it with Marco a lot. They get 2 touches from the outer side of the box, extended, and they try to rip the shot at an angle,
Right.
to that
Right.
curling far post. He didn't. He took 2, maybe 3 more touches to get near the D, and then literally it wasn't even a shot; it was a pass to the back of the net, and it was just like the genius that you have to have and the confidence you have to have, not to just try to hit it hard. I mean, it was literally a pass. He got to a spot and he goes, "Keeper's not going to get it. Pass it to the right side net. It's a goal." And it was just amazing. And the one thing that I really noticed is how he never stopped moving. Without the ball. He never, whether it was jogging or walking, he was always trying to get into a position. And even the own goal they had was an attribute to him moving without the ball. He opened up so much space for Atuesta because of his movement. We've seen Ojeda do it a little bit, but this dude was just never stopped moving, never kept trying to get into good positions. And then just the extra little bit of he was pressing hard in a friendly against a lower division team.
Right.
The third goal, the one he got the assist on, was from a press. He wasn't pressing the keeper. He was marking the outlet man on the outside, but he was still there. And one worry that we had, or I know especially Luke had, with him coming in was going to be his effort level and his work rate. And I didn't see anything that was a cause for concern, which I didn't really have any because I just know you don't get to the class, the level of a player that he is, without having that drive to continue to work hard. So I mean, it was definitely there.
And a funky match too, John, because remember it poured at one point and it was like super hot in the beginning, and then it poured at one point, and then the sun was on half of the field for another point. So it was he got all the different like Florida, weather emotions all at once, and so it was really interesting to see him kind of handle it because it came down like it wasn't just like the rain. It was like
somebody literally flipped the switch. It was on for 10 minutes and then it was off.
Yeah,
it wasn't even like it kind of slowly trickled in, and then it kind of no. It was a downpour and then nothing.
Yeah, he experienced all of it.
He probably thinks like, "What the heck is this place?"
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe not because they've probably had some rains in their because they've been doing 2 days, I think, twice a week. So I bet he's been getting the rain in like that second training session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a little side note about him that I found out recently that I didn't realize. I don't know if you guys knew it or whatnot. The only reason he retired from the French national team is because Mbappe got the armband, is what I heard.
Oh, interesting.
He was mad at the federation for giving Mbappe the armband when he clearly was next in line for it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What's funny too is I still think this, even though how good this French team is, they could still use him. Like I see where he could fit in for sure. Even if he's not starting, I think he'd still be a good piece off the bench.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, which is scary.
Right. yeah,
it's scary that he plays for us.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, he was clearly, looking at how, especially after the interest in him, everything, obviously liking posts about him. I started to see more Atletico Madrid accounts and stuff on my feed, and it was just, clearly he was still the best attacking player on the team, probably the best player on the team, debatably the best player on the team overall. And I mean, just to see how much, after kind of betraying them and going to Barcelona, just seeing how loved he was at that club, just, makes me even more excited for his time here. And I don't know if you watch it, Luke David. I know you watched it. Seems like Ricardo thinks he's going to be here for longer than just the 2 years. I don't know if you caught that in the press conference when they asked about. I don't remember the specific question, but it was kind of Ricardo. It was an answer in English, So it wasn't like something, and maybe it was Ricardo's translation could have been lost in translation in his head, but the way he put it, and then I immediately on my screen looked at Griezmann to see his reaction, and he kind of nodded with him. Seems like he might be here a little bit longer than just the 2 or 3 years his contract's
I
for.
was gonna say he's got 3 because he got the option
Yeah.
year on the back end for 28, 29. But
Yeah.
I mean, if he's still fit, I mean, you still let him go. There's no reason why you have him walk at that point. You know,
Oh, 100%.
like you just keep letting it ride, and at that point, we'll see. But you hope that MLS is so open that it doesn't cause a problem, right? That you can easily just kind of sign him up and keep it going. But and who knows what that team could look like? Because again, going back to like the left back rumor, people are like, oh, he's 32, 33. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me. You know, why are we getting players that can only give us 2 or 3 more years? And it's like, because that's what Griezmann's going to give us, 2 or 3 more years. We're in a window. That's what everyone keeps forgetting, is we're in a window right now. Tincho's in his prime, where he's very solidly in his prime at this point. Griezmann was a world-class player who's regressed a bit, but he's still a very good player, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one of the better ones in this league, I bet, when it's all said and done. And then if you're able to add another, high caliber player and this guy as well, like that's what you do. You load up right now. You're not in a tear it down and do it all over again. You've got Griezmann now start building. Like start bringing guys in who can win now for you, not win later. Like again, and it sucks for the U22s because they probably end up on the outside looking in at this point, but U22s are a crapshoot anyway. Sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't. And this club, unfortunately, for the most part, has gotten the don't part of it. But again, they're bringing in a higher caliber of U22 at this point. These guys should be contributing shortly, right? Like Thiago will probably be a potent forward off the bench when this team needs to go and chase a goal or wants to pad a stat line, right? If Otavio doesn't start, he's going to be a great piece to fill in for Cartagena when you need to bring Cartagena off. Same thing with Iago and the back line that's being developed here. Because again, we don't know how much longer Robin Jansen's got because we're probably starting to see the end of his career right in front of us, right? He's probably got a year-ish left before it's probably time for him to hang up the boots.
If he doesn't get injured.
If he doesn't get injured, yes. So it's interesting to see, kind of how that looks. But again, I think fans need to get used to the idea that now the direction's changed. You've closed Griezmann, so now you need to start loading up on players that are ready to win now. That's the goal.
Mm-hmm. And we have a GM, Ricardo, he said it himself, he's very aggressive in the transfer market. And then also we're in a different position on the back end of this 2 years, in my opinion, that we've never really been in before. Because you look at OCB, they're as far as the MLS Next Pro, they're doing pretty darn good. Yeah, they had a little rough beginning, little slow beginning, but I would be willing to bet I haven't really done much research on it other than like match-to-match comparisons. But I'd be willing to bet we have that OCB is one of the youngest rosters in MLS Next Pro.
It's pretty close. Yeah, I think they're top. They're definitely top 5, but I can't remember beyond that what they're currently sitting at. And again,
they're currently sitting in third, 1 or 2 points off of first.
Fourth. They're in fourth with 1 point out of first.
It might have changed. Yeah. When I looked Sunday after the match,
first, second, third are all on 34 points. Okay. OCB's on 33, so they're right there. But again, to that point as well, on a team that also lost their coach halfway through the season to get stepped up as an interim assistant coach, and then bringing in the guy, I think he was doing U18, U19s or whatever it was. Yeah. And they brought him in, and he's been wildly successful, number one. And secondly, from what I've heard, the kids love him. Like, they're a big fan of what Eddie Wilding has brought to OCB. And so that's exactly kind of what you're expecting. One thing I did want to touch on, John, and I don't know if it was part of the agenda, but Jose Campos left Orlando City.
Yes. Wasn't, but yes, that's a good thing to bring up.
But so for folks that don't know who Jose Campos is and are kind of just like looking at me going, huh? Who the heck is that? So Jose Campos, his latest position, and this kind of happened when everyone got moved around, Ricardo went up and everything like that. Jose Campos was the academy director for the last year and a half, 2 years, I think it was. And the reason why this is a big deal is because even before Jose Campos was academy director, he was a part of the Orlando City Academy and did a very good job alongside, who's the guy that I'm forgetting right now? that's a head of player development now.
I can't remember his name, dude.
Yeah.
I didn't Campos.
Anyway, alongside that guy helped basically build the Orlando City Academy to what it is now. And so losing him and so abruptly, which is the weird thing, is interesting because it makes a lot of people think that something Javier Carrillo, thank you, I knew I was going to remind myself of it. It smells like something happened there, right? And I don't know for sure. I've asked a couple people. There hasn't really been a lot of responses, but normally somebody doesn't resign effective immediately unless something else is brewing there. But the bigger thing that I want to look at and kind of hit on real quick is that I'm curious to see what the effect on the academy it does, because the academy, as of the last couple years, has been doing a really good job at churning out talent and pushing it up the ranks. So what happens now with Jose Campos leaving?
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of. I'm more nervous about him leaving than, potentially Ricardo losing his job. Honestly,
Sure.
because it takes such a special touch to be able to do what he was doing, and he just what he's been able to accomplish is with the academy in a relatively short period of time is amazing. I mean, you look at the players, look at what we've already sold from our academy, what we will be selling. It's pretty amazing in my opinion, and kind of scary on multiple fronts. Why he just kind of randomly left when 3-4 months ago he was, right. He was right there on board with everything.
Yeah.
So something had to have happened or said, or I haven't seen. Usually when something like that happens, you like and repost the announcement, and then very shortly after that you see that he accepted another job. Now I know it's only been like 2 days, 3 days maybe, but
right.
Usually when somebody abruptly leaves a job like that in the sports field, they usually get announced like within the next 24 to 48 hours for a new gig, and I just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, and I'll say this too, and the reason why I know this is confirmed is because Jose Campos himself replied to me on Twitter and said, basically, yeah, I'm out of here. Thank you for the nice words. And so, again, the club hasn't made an announcement, but it's pretty obvious. It's on all of his profiles now at this point. And so I guess the bigger question, and it's funny because I got this from a lot of people before, as I was like putting this information out there and trying to understand it, a lot of people were like, yeah, but was he that good if the first team never felt a lot of the academy presence? And it's like, yes, because the coaches at the first team level, Oscar Pareja, number one, didn't play these kids, right? How often were we clamoring to play Freeman earlier, play Ellis earlier, play more of Caraballo? This season, we've talked about playing, I know Harvey was a draft pick, but again, we're developing him. Playing Harvey, playing Dylan Judelson, getting all of these dudes up through the lines. Bernardo Ryan is another one who keeps ascending, right? Parker Amumensa is another one that's ascending. Zach Taifi, we've talked about. Tahir Reed Brown. I can name names forever, right? I'm not going to sit here and name all these names, but it's not on the academy director to be, for these guys to get playing time at the first team level. It's on the manager. It's on the technical director and Ricardo Moreira to say, hey, our team wants to play a certain amount of academy kids, or we want them to hit a certain amount of minutes throughout the season. If they're not doing that, these kids aren't going to get playing time. And so the next best thing is you sell them, right? Like we did with Granados before he even made it to the first team, and things like that. So I hope it isn't a huge negative effect to Orlando City's academy. I hope they have the next guy ready to go and identified to go and fix that. But I don't know. I don't know what's next for Orlando City and what that looks like. And maybe it's a thing where Javier Carrillo steps back into his old role for a little while until they fill the spot, right? Because again, like I said, he was the academy director, and then what was it, a year and a half ago, or no, yeah, about a year ago now.
Yeah, a year and a half. Yeah.
He's been now promoted to head of player development, and basically his role is from top to bottom. He's evaluating talent from the first team all the way down to whatever the lowest level that Orlando City has now, which I can't even remember what it is. So
U12 or U13 now.
okay. So again, like that's kind of his role. So maybe he steps into the academy director role for now and does it that way. But I know, Luke, you haven't really gotten a word in wise. Any thoughts on like the academy and what that looks like for Orlando City?
Uh, Not really. I feel like just, our academy's kind of producing just at a rapid rate. Like, I feel like with kind of the academy kids won't get a shot until, again, you burn it down. Because, like, they don't, again, Perelman will not start these kids, same as Perea. And, like, next thing you know, we won't get the fruit of our labor, to say the least. We won't get it because these kids will get 2 or 3 games for the first team. They'll be already developed, and then they'll be shipped off to Europe or wherever, and we won't get it. But it'll be too late, and then they'll be already gone. But if we start them and we play them, and they get as successful as they hope to do, that means their price tag will get better. They've got first team experience, and then we ship them off for even more. But I don't think this coaching, regime does not believe in starting young kids. So we're gonna have to just suffer with it until he's gone. So
Yeah, I mean, kind of what I was getting at about on the back end of this 2-3 year window that we have with Griezmann, and like the left back position, for instance, Bernardo Ryan, 18. You give him 2-3 more years, he'll be 2021. You take somebody like Ellis. Ellis will probably be gone within definitely the next
100%.
2-3 years.
Yeah.
But you take somebody like Caraballo, who may be able to step in and start playing. Once he gets a little bit more muscle on him, more of a central attacking midfielder role like he did on Sunday. You can take Belgadier. Belgadier's starting pretty regularly now for OCB, and he's 16. You take the Canadian center back that you and I are really
Clovis
high on,
Arshawn.
Arshawn. He's 17 and coming off of a knee injury, and looks like he hasn't missed a beat either. I mean, the dude is the dude's
And
a
I'll say
baller.
this, he's been the most consistent defender for OCB this year, like hands down.
Yeah, and you take Judelson, who's again 17.
Yeah, and I think he's on the cusp. I think Juddelson's right there as well. Like, I think he's basically ready.
Yeah, he's one of the players that something happens to Cartagena, or whether we ship him out, or God
Or
forbid
if
another
Gervais doesn't
injury.
work out after the injury,
Yeah, something. He's going to be right there next one up.
Well, and
behind
like
Gutsy.
the right back tree, Parker Amumensa has been good for OCB. He's a converted midfielder to right back, and he's been really good. Again, super young, 17, 18 years old. They just convinced him to forego college. He was going to go to Louisville, but now he's going to stay because he signed an OCB contract. Another guy who unfortunately had injury history, but Jackson Platts is still expected to come back. He's going to be another year now, unfortunately, but he's expected to come back. Landon Okonski, who's 17 years old. The kid's a tree. He's there. They just signed Chikomsko to a deal as well, who's only 17 years old. So, and we've talked about their various keepers. Obviously, Tristan Himes is probably the next guy up, but right behind him is Juan Rojas, who's only 18 years old, and he's looked really good for OCB these last 3 weeks. So this, like, to Luke's point, this academy is pumping out talent. Like, there is no lack. There's the kid we stole from Miami, who's in our, what is it, U15s or U17s, whatever level he's in now. He's going to be coming up.
U15, but he's playing U17.
Yeah, but he's going to be coming up shortly as when he continues to ball. There's a couple other kids down there that are right on the cusp of trying to find time with Orlando City B. So, I mean, at some point, to Luke's point, the shoe's got to drop, right? The manager's going to have to play these kids at some point, or you're just pissing away, for lack of a better term, what you're building the academy. And again, the other way to think about it as well is it's cheap players who are hitting the quality levels that you're looking for. And I understand that Griezmann's here now, but you can't tell me somebody like Zach Taifi can't contribute now, right? You can't tell me somebody like in certain games and in certain states, Caraballo can't contribute right now, or Issa Haruna even. Again, I understand he's a college draft pick, but he was young when we drafted him. You're telling me he can't contribute right now? Nacho Gomez, I know we want to sign him to a first-team deal. He can contribute. Bernardo Ryan probably even has opportunities where he can contribute as well. We got Leagues Cup coming up where I'm sure we don't want to play all the guys all the time, especially if we're going to get drummed out, right? Because if we lose to Monterey, the tournament's done. So you lose to Monterey, it's over.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where the rubber has to hit the road at some point. And I understand that so far the word has been they're going to stick with Perlman for the rest of the season, whatever. We don't agree with that. We've made that very clear. But if this guy starts losing again, like if he loses out the gate, let's say he loses to San Jose, he loses to Nashville, and let's say, God forbid, we get drummed out of the Open Cup, which at this point we shouldn't because Columbus has gotten worse as far as I'm concerned. This guy isn't staying. If he gets drummed out of the Open Cup and we start picking up losses, there's no way. And
if we lose that Open Cup semifinal, the plane ticket he has should be back to Argentina. He shouldn't even get on the plane with the club. At this point with what Columbus is doing, which is the reason the league almost moved Columbus away to begin with. Because remember how bad they were in the late teens. They were awful.
Yes, they're bad. Bad.
And they're getting back to that very quickly now within a matter of less than a season.
Yeah.
With everybody that they've sold away. But if we lose that, I don't even want to put it out there. But if somehow we were to lose that, he shouldn't even be on the plane ride home.
Yeah.
He shouldn't even be allowed back into the locker room. Ricardo should meet him right at the tunnel and say, "Nope, that way. Tickets right here's your ticket." But I mean, we know that's not going to happen. But yeah, I mean, no, definitely. I mean, it's.
Well, it drives everyone.
Not to turn this into an OCB chat because we have been going for quite a while and we still have one more topic. Is the one player that I've been high on for the last couple of years is Justin Hilton. Wanted just to get your opinion on him real quick.
Yeah, so I think with Justin Hilton, the unfortunate thing for him right now is that Issa Haruna has come in and basically made himself you can't bench Issa Haruna at this point. He's been good on the wing. He's been good at the 10 spot as well. And Issa Haruna is one of those players, and I talked about it and when we talked about the draft picks, I just didn't know what his position was at the next level. And it still seems like OCB doesn't really either, but that's fine because they can play him on the wing. They can play him at the 10. It's great. But what that's done to Justin Hilton, because Justin Hilton is very much a traditional 10. He's very good at that sort of like attacking midfielder type role. When he gets on the field, he's electric. Like the kid knows how to play and knows how to ball. The problem is getting on the field is his issue. Like he struggles to get on the field for OCB. So when he does get on, he has to make the most out of his opportunities. And sometimes he struggles to do that. Like he struggles to make a huge impact. He's had some games where he comes on and he scores right away and that's it. But what I'd love to see is, let's say, for example, if Caraballo gets a stint with the first team or is out on international duty because he gets a lot of those youth call-ups, maybe that's an opportunity where Justin Hilton can come in, Haruna can go to the wing, and we can really see what Justin Hilton can kind of put together. Because I do think he's got the right traits to be successful and be a really good player. The problem is he just doesn't get a ton of opportunity right now. And so it's really made it difficult for him to find a spot on the field. It's like what Belgadere does when Sarajan's not available for OCB. Belgadere's taking the most of his chances right now, and the kid's 16 years old. Like, I said this to John the other night, and I was being kind of facetious when I said it. The one thing that really at Belgadere is not a question about talent, it's his decision-making, but he's 16 years old. Of course his decision-making is not going to be the best right now, because I'm sure every level he's played at, he's been the best player on that team, right? Or one of the best players on that team. I don't know what his academy journey looked like, but if he's playing for OCB at 16, I imagine he was playing up a few levels through his soccer career, right? And so, again, going back to Justin Hilton, though, to kind of wrap that up, I really think at this point, he needs to be given an opportunity one way or another. And the only way you do that is by getting games. So they got to find a way to get this guy games so that he can try to better his game. But the skills are there. You can see it when you watch him play. Yeah,
no, definitely. I mean, Yeah, because he transferred from FC Cincinnati. He came up through their academy and then
Yes.
transferred over here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he's one of the guys that I'm really high on. He's only 17. Obviously, Haruna's 22.
Hmm.
So we seem to the last couple of years seem to have had a shorter leash on draft picks, whether they move up or not. Which I think Haruna is one of the guys that should.
Yeah.
I think even now he'd be a good, good bench piece because after Ellis, we don't really have another backup attacking midfielder.
No.
Um, but obviously you want to get him games. You want to get him get him playing time.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean the amount of players that were gone at the beginning of June for international play from OCB that went to play for the youth teams of other countries or in a couple even from our country
Hmm.
was astounding. And I think we still won the game that week as well.
Right.
Um, so I mean, that's a great, that's a good thing to have that amount. A good thing and a bad thing because it hurts some players' progression, like Hilton,
Right.
because they can't get the playing time. So maybe instead of getting a homegrown contract at 17, 18 years old, it's going to have to wait until he's 19, 20. But at the same time, like when you have that much ammo in the coffers, it's a good thing. So moving on to kind of really the only other than Duncan and Marco leaving, the only real kind of sad news, really the only negative news today is we're just going to go over the World Cup a little bit. Obviously, the U.S. Crawled out. I wouldn't even call it a limp at this point. Crawled out of the World Cup last Monday. We were going to do the show last Monday, but I just could not get myself to do it. I was still so irritated, so angry, like and everybody that watches the main show and these guys know, like, one thing I cannot stand is when it looks like players don't want to be on the pitch. And that's how, for the majority of the first half, that US team looked. And I don't understand. You're at a World Cup. Like,
Mm.
there's probably 2 billion people, three, maybe even more than that. There's billions of people out there that played youth soccer that at some point in time dreamed of being on their country's national team and playing in the World Cup. All three of us did. I'm sure, David really wasn't in the David Valentin wasn't really into soccer until he was older. Same with Misael. But I'm sure Ahmed did. I'm sure Ahmed's son does. I'm sure every kid on Ahmed's son's team does. And it's just like to see them come out and look like they did the first two of the first three matches or three of the first four matches, and then to come out and play one of the better teams in the tournament, a team that we should have beaten. Obviously, there was controversy coming in, which I was afraid of with the whole Balogun red card.
Yeah.
I just didn't have when that happened. It kind of completely changed my mood going into the match because of a mentality standpoint, kind of feeding into that
Well, it
that
gave Belgium fuel. That was the other
yeah,
thing too, is that it gave them bulletin
exactly,
board material of like, oh, so this is the way they're going to do it. All right.
exactly. So you know, just a hard thing, and I texted, I think, in the group chat or somewhere. I texted somebody. I may have texted multiple people. As much as as good as I think Christian Pulisic can be, if he
Hmm.
never steps foot on a national team, that's fine with me.
Mm.
Because what he's done, what the like Landon Donovan said it best. My leg would have to be falling off for me to be pulled off of that pitch during a World Cup knockout game.
Hmm.
Period. And for him to have, some people are calling it, you know, a bruise. Some people are saying he broke a bone. I understand, like right now, like something stupid, like I stubbed my pinky toe. Does it hurt? Yes. But if I had a Sunday league game tomorrow, a rec game tomorrow, I'd still
Hmm.
show up and try to play.
Yeah.
And that's a freaking rec league that I do for do for fun,
Right.
not a World Cup game where I've got an entire nation counting on me. I've the people around me started this whole marketing campaign that I'm Captain America or the LeBron James of soccer. And, whether he did that or not, he still leaned into it and reaped the rewards of it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And it's like you do this whole documentary. Yeah, you got to hang out with your best friend who filmed it. Cool. But you still did this whole documentary on CBS that literally just tried to make you look good. And then you come out, you skipped the Gold Cup last year because you said you wanted to rest. I personally gave him a pass for that. Okay, you had a long season, very stressful season with the way things have been going at Milan, especially the last 2 years. But then the ask to be subbed off and to look so nonchalant after Belgium tied it up immediately, to be a non-factor even before you got injured, like, I mean, come on, man, like. It's just, it shows that he'll never be Clint Dempsey. It shows that as much as I don't respect Landon Donovan, because I think he should have been a much better player than he was, but he'll never be at their level as far as the national team goes. He may have good club, better club numbers, and obviously he's already played for bigger clubs than both of them. But
Yeah.
like, dude, like, come on, like, have a little bit of want in your life,
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with the way that they kind of failed out was I think it gave not only fans, but I'm sure US soccer watching as well, an idea of like what the future of this team actually is. And I think to your point, I'm not going to shed a tear if Christian Pulisic isn't a part of this team going forward. I'm not going to lose a tear if Tim Ream never appears for the US again. Same thing with Matt Freese. Same thing with, like, I don't think Tyler Adams had the best tournament either. I think US soccer needs to figure out what they're going to do at defensive midfielder, because I don't think it's it. I think there were three players that raised their stock in this tournament. That's Malik Tillman, that's Folarin Balogun, and that's Alex Freeman. Those are the three dudes that raised their stock in this tournament. Everybody else was good, okay, or worse, right? I think Chris Richards was fine. I think if Chris Richards got more training in before, because I know obviously he's dealing with that injury, if he got more training in, he's probably a better Chris Richards than what we saw in this tournament. But he's 26 years old. He's going to be back at least for the next one, probably the next two, most likely. He'll be around for. I'm not worried about that. The biggest questions, though, that this team has to solve is, who's the replacement for Tim Ream? You got to find that third center back at this point, because I don't think you have it right now. So you got to find it. I think you keep the goalkeeper pool wide open, figure out what's going to happen there. And then I think you figure out who's going to be your defensive midfielder or defensive midfielders. Find out who that's going to be and what that looks like. And then I think you build around the rest of the pieces. Flo Balogun is going to be a great player for this team for quite some time. He's probably going to get a move to the Prem or one of the other leagues at this point. We'll see what ends up happening. I don't know if anything's happened with him yet, but
nothing. It's
like
all
that.
Been so-and-so's interested, but yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, real
he's
quick
gonna
on
get
Balogun, he's the only player that apologized
Yeah.
for the performance. Everybody else was just like, oh, it wasn't what we wanted, your typical cookie cutter stuff.
Right.
To me, the next camp in September, he should be given that captain's armband for the way he handled himself with the red card situation. Yeah. And he was the only player to take and he was one of the few players, like you said, that didn't have to apologize. Kind of, in my opinion, got a pass for how he played and his level of passion on the field. But go ahead. Sorry.
No, so I was just going to say, and I think the other person, too, that deserves credit, but he didn't have the best game against Belgium, is McKinney, right? Yeah. You can tell there's fire there. You can tell that there's hype there. So that's what you really need to build around and work on. I think everybody else, for me, for the most part, is take it or leave it. I don't really care. Like, Jedi was good, not great. Dest was decent, not better than that, really. And again, my thing, and I don't know if you agree, but my thing is I think if U.S. soccer can do it, I think you stick with Pochettino for now. I think you give him the full cycle this next go round if he's willing to stay. I don't know if money's going to be the problem or not, but I think you give him the full cycle. You let this guy go win a Gold Cup, because that's the goal at this point. If they're in Copa America, you let them go and compete deep into Copa America, and then I think you see what you can build from that. Because I think honestly, the United States could build a pretty nasty team. I think you throw a full court press at getting Banks in here. I know he's trying to choose between Germany and us. I think you have a full court press and get him in here. But I just got to say thanks to the Brits for letting us have Flo Balogun, because without it, I'm not sure what the striker situation looks like, because Haji Wright didn't get any run out in this tournament really at all, which I was disappointed in. Pepe, I think, was like that's about as much as I'd probably give him for this tournament. But I mean, this team, it's very clear that this team does not have the top end talent that obviously the rest of the giant teams have. That's fine.
Justice for Haji Wright, man. Justice for Haji Wright, man.
Yes, for sure.
That brother did not deserve treatment.
Especially after the season he had with Coventry. Like, what are
That's
we doing?
What I'm saying. That,
like, come on.
Pulled out in the championship. No.
But my thing that I was getting to is the United States doesn't need to make the full jump to having some of the biggest stars in the world and being one of those teams. I'm completely content with the United States having a couple of top-end stars, but the chemistry of this team is what brings this team over other teams, right? And if this team was more composed and better put together and didn't concede the goal in the 9th minute like they did in the 9th minute, I think this team has a chance to beat Belgium, right? And has an opportunity to move on. But they were just so distracted and shell-shocked by getting scored on in the 9th minute, but then being distracted by the whole Flo Balogun thing all week that it just threw everything off for them. So, because again, I'm realistic. They weren't going to beat Spain in the round after that. They were probably going to be the same fate that Belgium got, right? But this was a perfect opportunity on U.S. soil, on a probably the most passionate U.S. fan base I've seen the U.S. men's national team get since I've been alive, at least, to do something real, and none of the host countries, let alone the United States, could figure that out.
What top teams have, and right, and I'm not putting the U.S. in a top team bracket, is they have two players, at least, two players that play at the top level, that they build their team around. Now, when I saw that US team play, I'm thinking, they're a team, but who is that guy to kind of step up and get you over the line? It used to be Pulisic, but Pulisic didn't seem... Christian Pulisic was left in CONCACAF Nations League. But there wasn't really anybody to build around that team. Now, I don't know if that was a coaching fault or he just didn't have the players for it. And I don't think he had the players for it. Or they just didn't know. They just didn't know the player to build it around. Now, does he have an idea of who he's going to build around? I still don't think he has an idea.
Well, I think Flo Balogun's probably the main guy that comes to mind if you kind of try to build
like
around this
Balogun,
guy.
Freeman, and like a few others where they're the future of your team. You need to build around those players. Build a team around players that can do unworldly things.
And I would say, too, I think Pulisic just needs to go back into the winger pool. You're not above anyone else at this point. If you outperform the other wingers, great, you'll get called in. If you don't, then you're not getting called in at this point.
Yeah, he's not good enough. And that's, and maybe they need one player. And maybe that one player is out there in the academy system. But he's got 4 years to kind of...
He is.
Another player.
He's joining Man City in about 1.5 years.
What,
Kevin Sullivan. I still need to see more from him before I'm convinced that he's the...
Everything, so skill-wise, the jury's still out. But everything I've heard about his mentality and everything and the way he's approaching everything is top level.
Yeah.
It helps when you have an older brother that obviously didn't have the hype, but went through it, went through the ranks and everything and all of that.
Yeah.
But everything I hear about him is he's what this team really seemed to miss outside of Balogun, for instance. It's just a I hate when they say this phrase, but just a dog on the pitch. That's not going to take no for an answer type of deal. I mean, look what he did against us earlier in the season when he scored his first goal. As painful as that was,
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
well, here's the other thing too is like Haji Wright's only 28, so you're at least going to get another World Cup out of this guy if he continues to bang in goals for Coventry.
Play him,
right? But that's my point is that if he continues to bang in goals for Coventry, why whoever the manager is, whether that's Poch, whether it's somebody else, Could you not start Balogun and Haji Wright up top together
Yeah.
and figure out a two-striker system where they both can ball?
Man, I'm starting a Justice for Haji Wright campaign. That brother got
Look,
fucked.
I don't. You said it on here a while ago, but tell your story about about Haji Wright and why you're so high on him.
What was it? Oh yeah.
When you saw him play in live, was it that
Yeah,
you saw him
yeah,
play live with
yeah,
Coventry when
yeah.
you
I
were over
did,
there
I
with
did, I
Bama?
did, I did. Briefly. It was like 2 or 3 years ago. I went to go see a Coventry game, and they were like, again, in my family, I'm considered the Yank because I live in America and I've been here for a while. And they were like, Luke, you have to see this Yank play. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, he's freaking good. And I was like, where's he from? He's like, he's from America. He's freaking good. I was like, all right. So I had to go see him play. Blooming heck. He blew my mind. I said, there's no chance this guy has an American passport. He's way too good. Like, went in, did a job, looked strong, tall, attributes coming out everywhere. Like, didn't look bad. And I
Hmm.
was like, did some more research. I said, he's born in bloody America. I said, he's played for the national team. I said, who is this guy? And
Right.
then next thing you know, he's not really had a lot of games, not a lot of minutes for the national team. Now he's in the Premier League, and yet no minutes during the World Cup. Now I get Balogun's not play like Balogun's playing, and Balogun did well, not denying that. But if if he doesn't get minutes in the World Cup, I don't know who freaking does.
But even then, like, yeah, exactly what you're saying. I mean, you look at the game prior when Weah started.
Like,
You know, and Haji Wright can play that left winger position.
like,
Are you telling me Haji wouldn't have done better than Weah did? Because Weah was awful that game. As much as I like Tim Weah and think he has it in him to be a good player, you're telling me Haji couldn't have given you at least that, if not more?
that's what I'm saying.
You
It's
know,
like if it's not working, bloody switch it.
Yeah.
Like, you've got a squad for a reason. Like you look at England, and I'm sorry, I bring up England, and I bring up England for a reason because I know them the most. Like that's the only reason why.
Well, and you should this tourney. They made
I
it pretty
know, right?
far.
After watching all of this, I can't believe it. But anyways, like like if you've got Kane, then you bring on, and then you can bring on Ollie Watkins, and Watkins brings you a different dimension to the team. The
Sure.
same way that Flo Balogun brings a different dimension, like Haji Wright brings a different dimension than Flo Balogun. Kind of the opposite because one's taller and one's a more hold up player than the other.
Hmm.
But the same way Ollie Watkins can get in behind of defenders, the same way, and Kane can have hold up play the same way Haji Wright can.
well,
So
but see, that's the thing too.
sometimes
Is
different
Haji's
dimensions.
big enough?
What?
Haji's big enough where he can do that hold up play, but he's also like that's the thing about why I don't like. I think Pep's good or Pepe's good, but in my opinion, from what I've seen and with the sample sizes we've got from Haji has more to offer you than Pepe. You know,
Yeah, and I
Pepe
feel
has to have service to him in order to score.
yeah,
Haji
and
can create his own shot as well as Balogun.
I feel like specifically in the Belgium game, it was kind of built for him. Big, stocky guy going against tough defenders and, a physical presence. Now, I'm not on about him starting, not a
No,
chance. But him coming off the bench over flipping Ricardo Pepe, I'm picking Haji Wright 10 times out of 10.
Well, and
7 days a week,
this team was
24 hours a day.
missing. This team was missing like a Patrick Aubameyang or one of those kind of players. Like they didn't have the physical striker presence that they've had in other tournaments and things like DK when he got his call ups with the U.S. men's national team. Like they were missing a certain profile of striker. I feel like that could have benefited them in some of these games, especially in the elimination games. And I think that came back to haunt the U.S. a little bit.
Yeah. But like Daz was never gonna start. Like he was never gonna make the team. He's too flipping injury prone. never was ever gonna make it. But
Well,
you
it's
need
Yeah,
funny.
but I
somebody. You have to have somebody.
yeah.
And he was
Yeah.
sitting on your bench the whole time. And
Yeah, that's true.
it's just amateur hour. That is amateur coaching.
Yeah.
Like a manager who, was supposed to have know-how, got exposed and not had any know-how. And unfortunately, I thought he did. With a player when he managed like Kane, I thought
Hmm.
he would have the know-how to kind of fix that. But
Well,
he
and to
didn't.
back coach up a little bit with what you're saying, Luke, I think he had more of a job to do than just figuring out, the best tactic and who to play. He had to completely re-energize and redo the mentality of this team
Hmm.
for what Berhalter had. Because I don't know how much, Luke or David, that you read into the culture Berhalter had created, but it was a mess.
Yeah.
Just starting with the players' council where he had 4 or 5, 6 players that kind of ran the team. You know, and it seemed like how certain players always got a pass no matter what they did
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I mean, unless you're unless you're a Messi or a Cristiano Ronaldo, when it comes to international play, nobody has a pass. And I just really, I think because Poach came on less than 2 years ago, still at this point, so he had less than half of a cycle to figure everything out. And to me, he got this much out of them, did things that the U.S. team has never done since the 30s or 60s. I think if they're able, I agree with what David said. If they're able to keep him on, he's probably the best you're going to get anyway. Plus, he's a pretty darn good manager.
Yeah, unless they want to go a little bit more bargain bin shopping and they call up BJ Callahan and bring him back in. Because
Which I
that's the
wouldn't
other.
mind because I thought he should have gotten the job from
Yeah, I was gonna
after
say
last.
he's the one guy I can think of like MLS coach wise where you go, okay, I feel comfortable bringing this guy in, and plus it helps Orlando City because that would make Nashville probably worse. But not to be biased there, but yeah, he's the other guy that I think really understood what that team was about. But if you're gonna go again, if you're gonna be able to give him a 4-year cycle this go around and let him build from the bottom, because I think that's what U.S. Soccer needs to do. Is I think they need to go through the entire player pool and decide, okay, who's in, who's out, who's going to age out. What are these things going to happen, and start building and making those moves. And to your point, that first window, what you said it's in September, I think it is.
I believe it's September. Yeah.
I think you need to bring the guys that you really want to bring in, and then bring in some new guys that you've been trying to convince for a while. I think that's the goal.
Yeah. I mean, I think it should be one where we see, where and what you said about Banks, he's our answer for a second center back, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Goalie, maybe not now because they're both 17 and 18, but for the next World Cup, I feel like we're better equipped at goalie because of who we have on different reserve teams over in Europe. One of them is a Barcelona player who was on the bench for Barcelona for a couple of games because of injury this past season. I can't think of his name right now, but so we have. I feel like we're better equipped with goalies. Not, no disrespect to the players that play college, but not a bunch of former college keepers, guys that have come up through academies, that have stayed at, that are at decent clubs. I mean, I'm not expecting us to have, guys coming from the Barcelona academy every cycle, but
Mhm.
just players with a little bit of pedigree behind them will help. That won't freak out in a situation like Freeze freaked out on last Monday. And it's just I really feel like we talk about building around players. I feel like it's McKinney. I've always said, Luke can attest to this. I've always said the national team goes how McKinney goes. Now I thought he played okay against Belgium.
Mhm.
But in order for them to do well, he has to, he can't have a bad game, in my opinion. And the U.S. still have a quality match. I think he's a player that just what he brings so many different facets to to being on the field that it's an insanity. I mean, you look at what he does for Juventus. He's their Swiss Army knife. That I think he played last year. He played 7 of the 10 field positions, and the 2 he didn't play was like attacking midfielder and center back. So I mean, the dude can play. The dude's a baller. The dude believes in himself, obviously, because it seems like around this time every year, Juventus it seems to be trying to get rid of him. You
And
know,
he proves them wrong. They hold
and
on
he
to
proves them
him.
wrong by Christmas time. He's one of their most important players, if not their most important player.
Right.
So I mean, we have the base there, and if Pulisic somehow finds it in him to have that mentality switch and accept the criticism that's coming from the former national team players that have been in his shoes, like a Donovan, like a Dempsey, like a Tim Howard. You know, I mean, Donovan came out, and I don't fully trust it, but he said one of the World Cups he played with a partially torn hamstring for a while, or it was some injury like that. It was definitely a torn muscle, and nobody ever knew about it. You know, type of deal. I mean, if Pulisic had that, you'd know the second he got it, and he'd have to come out.
Right.
You know, and that's not saying in 22 when that crash he had with the goalkeeper was nasty, and I'm not discounting that, but
Sure.
it's just like it's with him. It's literally one excuse after the other for him not completing a camp or not completing, not being able to play in a World Cup match or what have you. And it's just that's what I'm sick. That's honestly what I'm sick of, and I feel like that's his mentality is why he was so successful when he was on the field against Berhalter. But I feel like he hasn't really been that successful with Poch as the manager because of what Poch demands.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, I think to me at this point he's just another winger in the pool. Like that's the way you got to treat him until he proves you otherwise, and that if he becomes unplayable again, then fine. But he's not at that level. I don't think that the squad should look at it that way. And whoever the best left winger is should be the winger who starts. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean he showed it in the first match against Paraguay. Then does whatever happened to his. I mean, it was a kick to the calf. Like,
yeah,
I know he got a knock in training, but still, it was a kick to the calf. Like, it was a bad bruise, Yeah. And it's like, then he played the rest of the tournament looking like he was scared. But semifinals this week. It's what, Wednesday, Luke, right?
Yep.
Tomorrow and Wednesday.
Tomorrow and Wednesday.
Tomorrow's France, Spain, and then Wednesday's England, Argentina.
Who we got? Oh, I know who Luke has winning. I mean, I think we all three on that side, the Argentina-England game, know who we want to see win. But
so
what about
that one though? I did make my prediction that it's going to go to extra time and England's going to win in extra time.
That's a solid prediction.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be at least a red card in that game.
That was going to be my question. How many
red cards
to give England to give Messi a chance? When that brings up another thing, did you guys see the whole?
All right, we'll get one. Don't worry.
Yeah, real quick. Who do we want to see on the other side? The Spain-France one. Who do we think is going to win? Who do we want to see?
I'm France 3-1 over Spain.
France.
France is too good.
From what I've seen,
I'm thinking France 2-1 extra time.
Okay.
You think it goes that far? Okay.
Yeah, I feel like Spain can hold them out for 90 minutes at least, and then France will just eventually just buckle them down. But
I just think between Elise, Mbappe, Dembele, everybody else that they've pulled off this team, they've been so nasty in so many different areas and roles. It's been crazy.
Yeah.
It's been nuts.
Yeah.
And again, a final's a final. Anything can happen.
True. Yeah, that's true.
I don't want to hear people say, well, it's the winner of that who gets, who wins.
And also the ref assignments are really interesting because Barton's going to be in the game tomorrow from France and Spain. And then Ishmael Alfaf is getting the England-Argentina game.
That might help you guys, though, Luke, because Ishmael
does not like.
I know he's been back in the MLS for a couple matches this year. I remember seeing him. But he really has a gripe against the MLS and USSF.
Yeah, I don't think he likes the US, like the MLS that much.
No, because he left to go ref in Saudi Arabia or somewhere for last year.
So he's gonna be out for somebody, I think.
Yeah.
I
But
think
I know exactly. And now I've got his. All I'm gonna see in my sleep is him. Oh,
But speaking of that match, the Argentina match, did you guys see the huge? I'm sure you guys saw the, how the football federation in Argentina is being investigated for money
Yeah.
laundering and everything.
yeah.
But did you guys see the details on that and like how Adidas is playing into that
Really?
and all of that? And it really I sent it in a group chat, Luke. That's what I was talking about earlier. Did you see it? Um, According to what I saw on social media, that was a cited source that I did a little bit of research on that seemed to be a reliable source.
Mm.
Um, it this whole thing could come back again. I mean, this to me, what I read, this could come back against Adidas. FIFA seems to be in the clear of it, surprisingly,
For now.
but
For now.
I don't think they will be once it's all said and done.
Yeah, I agree.
Argentina Football Federation, I mean, they might even face something like, was it Haiti faced? Even worse. It'll even be worse because it's a lot more money. And for those that don't know, to summarize it, there's an investigation going on with Argentina's federation that they're using U.S. resources to money launder, and that includes opening up random businesses and stuff like that. So, like, prize money that they've won has went directly through this business somehow, and stuff like that. So, to me, the way it looked from reading that, this could even come down as far as like MLS and Inter Miami and all of that, if you think about it. Because if
Yeah,
Adidas was
and again,
involved
why I say FIFA's not involved is where you say they're currently not, and why I say they're going to is that look at the last couple FIFA presidents, man, and Infantino is just looking for a way to get involved in one of these situations, like. And what's really silly about it is Argentina brought it on themselves because they moved their headquarters to Miami, which gave the FBI the ability to investigate a lot more of their books and a lot more of the stuff that's going on there. So they kind of played themselves because they moved their operations to Miami.
Yeah, and you got to think Adidas had a lot to do with Messi coming to Miami.
Yep.
Then does that bring in Apple TV with it?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Multi-trillion-dollar fraudulent scam.
Well, and that's why, like with the kit sponsor coming up, what is it, the end of this year, whatever it is?
I think it's this year, yeah.
Like, it begs the question that if Adidas gets caught in all this, can they even bid to become the kit sponsor? They might have to distance themselves from MLS at that point. But then also, Messi's income is supposed to be tied to the Adidas deal. So, like, does he get the same deal with a new provider, or does that part of the deal just go away? Like, I don't know.
Does he get his money cut?
Right, because like if let's say Nike comes in, I don't know, just to pick a different brand, right? Let's say Nike comes in, are they going to give him a similar cut? I don't know.
No, because he's not their
Yeah, exactly.
their label.
Nike
so it's just interesting because, and then again, like, does that push Messi to be like, well, then screw this, I'm not getting paid when I want to get paid?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Or does Adidas still have to pay? I mean, I guess it's all royalty.
Yeah, I guess as long as he keeps selling merch through Adidas, it's fine. But
football politics.
Yeah, I mean, so Messi's deal's over at the end of next season, not the sprint season, the full season.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm
And
convinced.
the Adidas MLS contract, it's at the end of the 2030 season, so it bridges over that.
Okay, so we're fine there.
So,
I'm still convinced too. If Argentina somehow finds a way to win this World Cup, I think he retires. I'm convinced he retires. Like, why would you? No offense, but why would you go back to MLS at that point?
Yeah.
Like, really and truly.
I mean,
you're gonna get your ownership stake. You're gonna get all the other things that you were promised with it. Who cares?
But that's the thing. Is like, if this does come down to what I'm saying, that it looks like it could come down. Because even the post that I saw said that there's still other entities that could be involved that are being investigated.
Yeah.
If it comes down to that, they could even say that they can't give him the ownership stake.
Interesting. Okay.
Like it wouldn't surprise me if it's something like
So then so then it would be in his best interest to close this out while he can, right?
yeah.
Like then I would say retire, get your ownership stake now, get everything else settled, and just say, oh, sorry, it's all done. Like,
Yeah.
it's wrapped up in a bow or whatever. And then whoever's gonna have to pay fines or serve jail time or whatever it's gonna be.
And I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't know how much, obviously the legality of individual players being involved in it, but it would not surprise me if he's one of the individual players
Yeah,
that
maybe.
that possibly caught up into it.
Well, because he had a family member that convinced them to move to Miami, right? Like to move to
I believe
Federation
it was a
Miami.
family member. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. It's interesting.
Then I mean, and then that would open up. That would be, and then the thing that kind of gets me giddy inside is if the MLS. It scares me because of the MLS is pretty stable now, but something like this could be enough to rock it to where the league may have to absolve. Depending on what happens. But the thing that makes me giddy is this means the FBI would be investigating Inter Miami too.
Yeah.
And all of then once the convictions, and I mean we're talking 10 years from now at best that court dates and stuff are set because it will be a federal case.
Sure.
But at least in 10 years, if all of that stuff,
well, I would also say it depends on the administration. Depends on what the administration looks like at the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's right now it's only $300 million. And they start digging through it, and it keeps climbing. I mean, this has only been a 6-month investigation at this point.
Yeah.
And they've already found that it potentially could be 300. Let me put it this way: what I know about investigations, because I'm kind of a little bit of a crime nerd, is if they're actively investigating it and they say an amount or an amount comes out, it's always much larger than that amount.
Sure.
So the fact that they said they're investigating $300 million. That leads to the belief that it's at least $300 million, which is interesting. And then at that point, it's not even like a government administration thing. It's just what the FBI is willing well, I guess it does have to do with the attorney general probably at that point. But no, that would be, because it'd be a statewide thing. How far they'd want to push it. I mean, really, $300 million money laundering scheme is pretty big.
Yeah, but if also more countries are involved, it could even go to a global criminal court. Like we could, like again, if Infantino is found to be a part of any of this, like you could see stuff like that happen.
And then it would be. But my point is the giddy part is we'd be able to, once it goes to court, unless the judge says it's sealed. It'd be public record, especially if it's just goes to federal and it's not an international. You get to see
all of Miami's laundry. Yeah, for sure.
Which would be interesting. So, but we're gonna wrap it up there. Kind of on a cliffhanger, kind of not. We're all on a cliffhanger. I'm on a cliffhanger with that. Because that's interesting to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, for sure.
But anything else to add before we go? I know Luke's on pins and needles, probably not sleeping much since what was that, Saturday night?
Yeah.
I know I wouldn't be waiting for that semifinal on Wednesday.
Oh yeah, kick towards the wall in the second half. Just thought I'd do that.
Which you were supposed to add, and I forgot about. They did not do again at the friendly.
Yeah,
they did not. Yeah.
Please don't. Please just kick towards the wall in the second half. I can't believe we're still not doing this. It's getting old. I'm going to keep on saying
it. Like I said earlier in the show, the boys play again on Wednesday against FC Dallas in Dallas. You can actually listen to that game on the on FC Dallas's YouTube channel. So if you want to listen, somehow you can do that. But like I said, I imagine Orlando City will post photos and videos and various other things from that game. So with that one, we'll have to just fill in the pieces. We won't know tactically what they really look like or how they operate, but that'll be the last time that the boys will kind of get together for the final, like official time before they start, obviously, with the season going. And from what I understand, the Rowdies game started the training schedule of what the in-season training schedule looks like. So recovery day after the game, then various training sessions, then, you know, film studies and all that. All that started up again right as the Rowdy game started. So they really wanted to get the guys back into, this is the progression, this is how we're doing things, all that kind of stuff. So, and then the other thing I'll say too is, don't forget that this team is not done. Ins and outs are not done for this team. You expect this team to continue to build. Obviously, as John said earlier, the window just opened today. Monday, we're recording this on Monday. So the window just opened today on July 13th. This team has more work to do. This is not a complete project right now. They have more work they need to do. So this team should continue to build. You should expect to still see a couple of pieces. I know we've talked about left back. Don't be shocked by a center back either. And I still think they're looking for at least one or two more attacking pieces. Now that Paslic is probably on his way out, they might be looking for two pieces as opposed to one piece. So don't be surprised by any of that. There's going to be more moves to come for Orlando City.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll just add to that a little bit. You know, people are going to be, oh, so and so signed this person, so and so signed that person, so and so signed another. You know, those were all deals that were done weeks ago in all likelihood that just didn't make it out.
Yeah, they're just
That were
making
pretty tight.
it.
The clubs are pretty tight-lipped about. You know, so be patient. If it gets to be mid to late August and we haven't really done anything, maybe signed a player, you know, and not an impressive player, not like anybody we talked about here, then would be the time to kind of start, you know, like lighting the beacons, if you will. You know, raising the alarm. But for now, it's, you know, kind of wait and see. The fact that there's been, you know, what, 8 to 10 different rumors out there that seem to be that, you know, pretty solid rumors that we at least had interest in is a positive to me. At least they're there. Traditionally in the summertime, there's nothing for us. We haven't been a club that's done a lot of movement in the summer. I mean, Kara came, Marin came. But other than that, most of our moves came in the winter transfer window. So the fact that those rumors are there is a good thing. You know, and just remember they're rumors until Tom or Fab says something about it. They're you know, they're just rumors at that point. So just to keep that in mind.
I will say though, I had Dunk before Tom did. So
Yes,
I just
you did.
want to
And David. If David says it's happening, I will say that. I will for what it's worth, put my word behind David.
I think I've gotten to the point where I've gained some trust there. The fact of if I'm putting something out there, because I'll say this too to our fans real quick. I don't put anything out there unless I get, my personal ethos is I get triple confirmation from somebody. If it still floats around one or two, I kind of hold it to my chest to kind of see how it plays out. But yeah, I was on Duncan a couple of days before Duncan got announced, and I didn't want to share the team because I didn't want the deal to fall through. I don't want to mess with the team's business. I think that's unfair. So because again, Tom has been doing this for a while. He's an artist with this stuff, so I trust that when he says something, it's basically over the line.
Yeah.
So but he's got that kind of extra gear that I don't, so I try to be careful with what that
He's
looks
also
like.
been doing it a lot
I'll continue
longer
to
than
stick
you.
to the safe rumors and kind of put my 2 cents in where I can. So
And honestly, the only thing I've ever seen Tom be wrong about that said it was done was Duncan, and that's an anomaly, you know.
Sorry.
yeah, he also said Tucson was done, but again, not his fault.
Yeah.
The medical failed. So
Well, it was done. Pen was to paper, pending medical, and then
Right.
you know. So
dude
I
had
mean
a
that
shattered
was
hamstring.
yeah.
The stories I could tell about that guy.
So, but thank you for everybody that's going to watch this on Wednesday. Long episode. I think this is definitely our longest episode to date. You know, we start by the time this drops, it'll be a week out from when the season starts back up. It feels like the season's starting, but it's just starting back up. You know, we take on San Jose. There will be a regular 90 minutes episode this coming Monday, which will be the 20th, kind of going over everything that has happened with the club, some World Cup reactions, and then also looking for the 2 matches next week. Saturday's a big match as well when we play Nashville. That'll really kind of tell us where we're at because they haven't gotten any weaker.
Two
since
tough
we
ones
played
out the
them
gate.
last. What's that?
2 tough ones out the gate for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah. So, but as always, if you guys have anything to add, have any questions for us, want to join in on an episode, just let us know. Leave your comments. We appreciate them all. If you're watching for the first time, really should have said this earlier in the show, not virtually 3 hours in. But if you're watching for the first time, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube and all of our and our socials. Everything's just in 90 minutes podcast. We're everywhere on social media. And this one's only done on YouTube. This specific show, our regular shows done on YouTube, X, Facebook, and Instagram. So thank you for watching, and as always, vamos Orlando.
Schleger's in the back. The shot is